Hello and welcome to the 664th edition of the Giant Bombcast. I am Brad Shoemaker, joined by Ben Pack, Jason Astrager, Jan Ochoa, and straight out of Night City, special correspondents, Jack and Gersman and Vinny Cyberpunk.
Part of the Chicago house scene over here.
Just gonna go now.
Heard about the aircraft carrier parked at the submarine parked outside of Night City. I guess it's parked outside of Night City.
Vinny Caravella.
They got an aircraft carrier up there?
Hey, what's up, Joe boys? It's time to punch deck. Let's get it on.
What's up, Chooms?
Hey, all you Gibsons are gonna get your synapses fried by the black ice. Look out for that.
You got to check out before you hit black ice.
Quang Mark 11. You gotta get the good ice to Winter Mute. Just cute.
See, sentries do net damage and meat damage. You want to avoid those at all costs. If you run into a barrier, you're fine. It's just going to end the run.
Why did the big joke here, big comedian on the Night City circuit? Why did the security system kick his roommate out?
I don't know. Why did the security system kick his roommate out?
Because he stopped chipping in.
This has been the Giant Bombcast. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Stealing material.
I can smell my mind start to burn here from this ice, so I have to disconnect before I flatline here.
It smells like burnt toast when you hit black ice.
Yeah, that's Chippin' In is the name of an album from the band Samurai. Johnny Silverhand's band in the game Cyberpunk 2077.
Vinny, thank you for being here.
Like you
guys have played a bunch of that.
I thought
a bunch
I did.
Of what, Brad?
But maybe I didn't.
What are we talking about?
That game he just said, Cyberpunk 2077.
All right, I just want to make the audience get mad that we don't say the name of the game sometimes. So I really want to.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk 2077 is
That's
a game.
the game where Keanu Reeves at one point utters the words "massive cock" while talking about himself.
It was not the worst Keanu Reeves I've ever heard.
Yeah. Can you send that sound clip to me, please?
It's going to be a drop.
There's angry Keanu Reeves is weird.
Does he know him? I don't think of Keanu Reeves as a guy with a lot of range usually, so...
I love Keanu.
John Wick, he's pretty good at being like wrathful.
I got nothing against him. He seems like a great guy, but
but there's what I've had very little so far of the Keanu Reeves. I just got up to some Reeven, and he's like he's like angry and like petulant and like swears a lot and is as nasty as he wants to be, and it's weird.
Yeah, there's I mean, I think, so I talked to Bacalar for a while about this game yesterday, and I think one of the things that really was striking to me is the way a lot of the dialogue is written. And I think that Keanu Reeves' dialogue ends up being some of the most striking in a weird way of just like, that's not how people talk, and that doesn't sound right coming out of his mouth a lot of the time either, in a weird way where it's like it is. I mean, in that line that it is literally him bragging about like, yeah, well, I got my massive cock. He is talking about his massive cock because he is rock star, fucking samurai, fucking cowboy, deck puncher extraordinaire Johnny Silverhand. Like he's a big deal in the world of the game and all that stuff. So he is very much that the rock star character, and the some of the dialogue that they wrote for that just seems a little, it seems bad. I don't know. Like I think a lot of that's maybe my problem. We talked a lot about bugs, and there's a lot of like bugs that are fun to sit there and dissect, but the stuff they're not going to fix in a day one patch is like, I think a lot of the line reads are pretty rough, and a lot of the things they wrote don't sound like things humans would say. At least not humans in a city that is in California. Even if you take into account that cyberpunk fiction traditionally brings in like a lot of like Japanese influence, and
Kind of blends,
that it kind of does try to be like, hey, in the future everyone speaks every language, or they have chips that do it for them, like they try and bring that influence into it. Like it still doesn't sound right, and that's I think just Keanu Reeves' character ends up being like a good gateway for you hearing how wrong some of it sounds, because I think he is Keanu Reeves, and you have more experience hearing him than some of the other characters in the game. But I think it's kind of across the board.
How much is he in it? Like, is this Kiefer Sutherland Metal Gear situation?
He's in it a lot, and he has a lot of lines. Like,
okay.
like
it's not like they had him for an afternoon or something.
So the other thing I'll say is I think he is the most important and interesting character in the entire game.
Oh, okay.
Without getting into specifics around who he is, why he's there, all that other stuff, they've kind of hinted at like, hey, he was a big deal 60 years ago, and then now here he is showing up all these years later and not looking like an old man. But they haven't really gotten into that stuff specifically. And so I don't.
It does seem plot pivotal. At least where I am.
I will say the remainder of that game, I feel like I'm getting pretty close here to the end, but that game pivots around that character. And so he's in it a lot and has a lot of lines of dialogue. Even like, so, like he shows up at a point in the game and then is kind of can always show up and have things to say. And so that means like even on side missions that seem like they would have nothing to do with his character or his plot, he might show up to comment on it and basically say how much of a shit job you're doing. And so like that, I think that's the part where it's a little weird, is like, Keanu Reeves, like his line delivery does not convey the attitudinal vibe of like, hey, I'm here to criticize every move you're making. Like it doesn't work all that well sometimes.
He doesn't have the swagger.
No, but he's constantly talking about having it, and that's almost worse. And it comes across a little corny, a little hokey at times. I think a lot of the writing, I think, but so I don't know where to start with this. Vinny, how far?
Set the stage for us. You guys have been, Jeff and Vinny have been playing for what, 4 or 5, like better part of a week, something like that.
I think I started digging in on like Friday.
Okay, so you're a ways in.
I did a little bit on Thursday. I think I can't remember when the codes came in. A little on Thursday just to make sure it worked, and then Friday a little bit after the recordings when you guys were doing the Breaking Bread.
So you've had some time to roll it around in your head a little bit.
I think I'm probably 7 hours in at this point, which and I just got the title screen. I'll
say I think it is an amazing late title card. Like, it is an like the idea that like everything you played up to that point is prologue both makes perfect sense, and also like it's really I think that aspect of it is really like masterfully done.
So I got so it's very, I think you kind of went over this some, but I'll reopen the fundamentals here. It is very Fallout-ish, new Fallout-ish. It is a very open world in this kind of GTA sense of stuff moving around a city, crime happening all over the place. It's so it takes place in Night City, or at least the part I'm in is Night City. And it, man, I don't know how to say this. It's like fantastically mundane. Like I feel like it is. You see so much like, oh wow, look at all this stuff. But when everything is all that stuff, it suddenly becomes not that exciting. So look at all this cyberpunk and all this. But like combat, you are doing things like hacking and using weird weapons, but everybody's hacking and everybody's using weird weapons, and it suddenly just feels like you're not that special. And the combat or the path you take has made me feel like clumsy and not cool in a way that is trying to hack the other players. You do things like tap into them to use, they're basically spells to hack their implants and stuff like that, right? So you have a deck which has a certain amount of RAM, which I guess it could be your mana cost if you want an equivalent.
And it regenerates, and you can spec in a way that makes it regenerate faster. You can buy equipment that gives you a higher RAM capacity, and then there are different spells you can slot into slots on that deck, basically.
Yeah, and so like you can if you're playing with a controller, it's like a left bumper or something like that to pull up your slowdown time targeting system for your deck, and you hover over somebody, and then you select what you want to do to them, which one of your spells. I'm just going to call them spells, and it's like short circuit them, right? And then you release it, and there's a little breach thing or a little hacking thing that happens, and in like a half a second they take some damage, or something else happens to the effect, right? And you could do it to things that are in the environment, and I forget what color they're color coded, like green things and red things. Or different things, and there are colorblind options, but actually the colorblind options I did not like.
They're terrible. They're terrible.
Not good.
Turns out that game is bad at accessibility across the board in a few different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so the spell stuff will be like some of it's very mundane stuff, like if you ping a camera, it will show lines going out to every other object in the area. So if there's like other stuff you want to hack or whatever, you can do that. You can ping a person even in some cases. There are things you can do like the low level stuff ends up being stuff like, I think it's like short circuit, where it'll just do some damage. And some of it can be non-lethal damage. Some of it can be lethal damage depending on what the spell is, which program you're using. It'll be like the one that'll make a character blind for 5 seconds or something like that. So if you want to run up to them and do them real quick, you can blind them and then run up and break their neck.
Are you getting to pause the action at all or slow down?
It slows down when you pull up the scanner view. Things slow down, but sometimes they speed back up. And I don't know. It's maybe it's just like hey, you spent too much time in here, and we're not going to freeze forever, sort of thing. But I was in a situation last night where I was trying to see, that's also the environment, the thing you bring up to get any kind of details on a target. And sometimes you're doing that to targets that are very far away and trying to line up this tiny little icon. You can zoom in a little bit, but it's just that's clunky. But also if you are aimed at an enemy and you click in the right stick, it will tag them so you can see them through walls. And tag them in like a Far Cry sense, basically.
Which is great, which makes that ping thing sometimes really useful. Like, I want to ping, literally send a ping to a device, so it shows the enemies on the map for a limited. I don't know if you can upgrade that later for a limited amount of time, and then you try to tag all the enemies before the ping runs out. But the way it does the overlay, and when you're looking around, it lets you see certain things when you have the scanner up through walls, but there is wall occlusion when you're trying to target things, so sometimes it can be confusing at what's in the room with you, which enemy is in the room with you, and which enemy is behind a wall. So I found early on in my first 7 hours, have found it sometimes tough to do stealth because I'm looking at a view where I see the outline of an enemy, and I'm not sure if he's in the room with me or not, and I have to rely on the mini map a lot just to kind of see if the circle's in the room or not. It could be I've stumbled into cameras and stuff like that a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, the game's very big on the mini map is very big on vision cones, and so if you're playing stealth, I find you're just staring at that thing all the time through most encounters because you're like, okay, he turned around, because if you're just seeing the highlighted silhouette of an enemy through a wall, it's not like a lot of games have that problem where you're not necessarily clear if they're facing you or facing away from you, just from the silhouette, but the mini map reveals what you want to know there. I thought there's some neat ideas with some of the different spells that the bomb spells now.
What do they actually call them?
They're daemons or
they're demons,
programs
or programs. Yeah,
executables.
Yeah.
Yep. That's yeah. But so there's one that'll actually like reset an enemy. So if you alert an enemy, you can cast that on them. And it has casting time. It is very much it is that, and it will reset them. They'll forget that they saw you and stuff like that. Which I thought was like neat ideas for just like if you really want to play like the quiet stealth type stuff, you can do that. But I mean, the game has boss fight. It's got like if you're not spec'd in a direction that lets you punch people real good, then there would be quests you will not be able to accomplish if you get to a point where you're gonna want to shoot guns in the game. It's not.
It has scripted go loud moments where it's like, oh, I've been stealthy this whole time, and then 3 guys crash through a window, and you're like, oh, okay, well, all right, let's fight. And the combat, it feels competent. I mean, you have your weapons. Right now, I'm mostly just in like general ballistics. Jeff, you and I were talking before. You said you got more cyberpunky ammo or weapons.
Yeah. So I think it's a shooter. I think one of the questions people have had is like, hey, is this dice rolls every time you pull the trigger? And no, it is. I feel like if you just look at what games like Grand Theft Auto, in terms of like open world and police response, it has that Grand Theft Auto star stuff. If you look at a lot of the mission design and things you're doing, think about the most recent Deus Ex games. Like it is a lot of that. A lot of that. It is funny to like, I think that's one of the funny things. People are just like, oh, I love The Witcher, I can't wait to see this. Like, I think that only takes you so far, because like this doesn't seem like The Witcher to me at all.
No.
There's very little shared DNA there in terms, and I say that goes for like, what I know of what people liked about the writing in The Witcher and stuff like that. Like, I'm not seeing that level of quality here.
That is concerning to me, because that's like the one thing about The Witcher 3 that I thought was an unmitigated success, is like every tiny 5-minute side quest you did had like something to it, So
that's one of my most significant problems with the structure of the game is the way a lot of the side quests are conveyed to you. There are people out there called fixers, and they're basically like, they're bosses for a region. They'll be, or not like boss in the enemy sense. They'll be like, hey, I run things here. Come see me if you want jobs. Also, do you want to buy a car? And so I'm constantly getting text messages from these people that are like, hey, there's another car if you want to buy it. And like, it's just like, so you'll have situations where you get, there are parts of the map that I haven't even been to yet, because there haven't been missions that have brought me there. But it's like the game has progressed to a point where, like, I'll get to a region, and when you get there for the first time, you'll just randomly get a phone call from a person you don't know who'll be like, hey, I'm the guy who runs things around here. If you want jobs, come see me. Or I'll call you with some stuff. And then that disconnects, and then you get like 4 text messages in a row from them that's just like, I think there's a guy over here that you need to kill. And, hey, go steal this person's guitar. And, hey, I got a car for sale. And then, hey, I got a car for sale again. And
is there a difference between those and like actual, like you find somebody in the world who has a quest and there's maybe a little more story fleshed out, and it's like
you can go visit these characters and stuff. They're like, hey, come see me if you want to sit down and talk. And I've not done that yet because they just keep texting me with stuff. There are definitely like, there are main quests, there are side quests, and there are gigs. And a lot of the fixer things show up under gigs. And so they are kind of the most empty of the lot. Though I think one of the coolest like little moments I've had actually ended up being from a gig, but there's like no other characters in it and no dialogue. It was just like, look at all this stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. This like fills in some interesting stuff about the Johnny Silverhand stuff that I thought was like a funny little goof. But it's like kind of a throwaway bit at the same time. And so like, I'd have to load it up and look at what they classify as like side quests, but like everything that's had like real meat to it has been part of the main line. And in the main line, you might have 3 things going at the same time, but they all kind of point you in the same direction. And without giving too much away, there's like a story reason why you're kind of on a clock. And I don't know how much that plays into just like, could you run out of time in this game and not get the conclusion you think you want to see because you have run out of time? Like that's what I want to know. And that's kind of where the direction I'm kind of heading in. And so like that's potentially interesting if there just like are significant different, and you see the setup for like there could be significant different ways that this game goes in the 3rd act that could dramatically change the nature of your character and how that character interacts with the world. And I think that stuff, at least right now where I am at what I think I'm very close to the kind of the end of Act 2 from what I think is probably close to the end of Act 2 from like a story pacing thing. That's something that could go a number of different ways, and I think that could be kind of neat. But the rest of the game has felt very inconsequential and really slight in terms of just like the writing and the nature of a lot of the quests you get and how they're delivered, because it is just like, hey, we're going to dump like 4 quests on you and they're all kind of meaningless. And then I keep getting, I got a random phone call from some lady. This was like the first fixer I think that got in touch with me. And she's like, hey, I'm here. I got some jobs for you. And I'm like, okay, you're like a really random, I don't know who you are. Like, I don't know what. Okay. All right. And then she's like, you got to catch these cyber psychos and try to keep them alive if you can. And And then it's just like anytime you get near one of her missions, you get any one of the fixer's missions, you'll get another phone call that says like, "Hey, this," and you'll be like in the middle of a conversation with like a story, like or the close of a conversation with a story thing or with Johnny or something like that, and you'll get this phone call in the middle of it, and be like, "What?" Or text messages in the middle of all of it. And you're like, "Fucking," it's like too much all at once sometimes. Like they don't let anything breathe when it comes to that sort of stuff, and that almost feels like. That almost feels like a bug in some sense of just like, hey, maybe don't have phone calls come in the middle of some of this other stuff. Like give the players a bit of buffer space to deal with the dialogue they're currently dealing with.
There's a lot of data to manage in that game. You have a lot of stuff.
I saw Bacalar posted a screenshot of his inventory this morning. I was just like, I don't know if I want to deal with this. Like
there are items that are classified
and all these boots and jackets. It was just like a screen full of icons. It was like,
well, so that's the backpack view, and you don't need to view things that way. You can go into just like show me all my jackets, show me all my shoes, and stuff like that. But the game has encumbrance. The game has items that you loot that are specifically junk, like dildos and tin cans and other dildos and some dildos. Vinny, how many dildos have you found?
At least 3. I think I've sold a bunch. I don't know if I've kept some.
You get $3 for some of those dildos. So.
Can I raise something that concerns me?
Go ahead.
I think that it's so weird. The year's 2077. Why do they still look like that? From the screenshots I've seen.
It's classics, man. Some things never go out of style.
You find a bunch of vinyl records that you end up selling for as junk, also. So
maybe the dildos are like from Etsy or something, and they're like these are
artisan. The artisan king prong.
Meat dildos are very retro.
Yeah.
So you there's a lot of stuff that's just junk, and that stuff you can sell with one button when you get to a vendor. But there's no way for you to mark your existing items as junk when you pick them up, or there's no like loot as junk, there's no flag as junk, no system like that in there. So it becomes this situation of just, and sometimes you want to dismantle items for crafting or upgrade parts instead of sell them. In fact, I think I've been doing more of that lately. I sold a lot early on. But it becomes, I think Vinny and I were talking about this just before, and it becomes this process of just like
it's cumbersome.
Yeah, it's very cumbersome to just like every one by one item, especially like some of these guns, you have to look at and go like, well, do I want to keep one sniper rifle around? And meanwhile, the item you have equipped is popping over half of your inventory view and making it hard to view what you're doing. Yeah. And there's just a lot of clunky stuff around there that like should have been done better.
So when you're in your even in your weapon view, I mean, I think right now I can have like over 200 items in my backpack, right? So like when you're in your weapon view, if you have 50 guns and you're like, all right, I've got 50 guns, 10 of them are the same gun, and they all have different stats rolled on them, right? They all have different DPS, and they'll just tell you the DPS, which is nice. But some have mods and some have different things.
And by default, it'll sort by DPS. And if a weapon has a mod, it'll come out of a weapon when you shard it.
But you'll have these 2 columns, right, in this gun view, right? Basically, there's 2 columns that go down. When you're looking in your weapon slot, and you're like, okay, what's my weakest gun here? Let's go into this view. And you have certain weapons that are basically quote unquote iconic, or I mean, it's literally called iconic, which is like, hey, you can upgrade this over time. You might not want to get rid of this gun. This is a weapon that we can keep pace with this gun for the rest of the game. So you might want to do things to it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep this iconic or epic or whatever they want to call it. And as I'm going through the rest of them, the inventory shifts around as you dismantle stuff, right? So you're one at a time dismantling things. So you're hovering over this item, and then like it has the comparison view pops up, so you're like, all right, well, okay, and now I'm going to dismantle this,
which is a hold. It's a hold down the Y button into whoop, and then
suddenly another gun shifts into that slot where your cursor just was, and you're like, whoa, okay, stop, okay, and then you got to move the cursor around to find the next one. It's just very like, you should be able to tag stuff and then say dismantle all, or you should be able to tag it as junk and just say dismantle.
Or tag it as favorite, don't dismantle. Like if you could lock an item, like for your iconic items, or if it had some kind of thing for those specifically, like that would be useful. Inventory management across the game, I think, is really bad. And I think the menus in general, in terms of like just, okay, I need to get to my character view so I can spend points, or I need to get like the quest log is actually like, hit the start button, then move the Destiny cursor over to journal, hit A, then it pops up, scroll down past all the quests to get to gigs, click on it, then hit a different button to highlight it as your tracked quest, and then There's a lot of stuff like that like you just look at it and think like, gosh, I like these seem kind of like solved problems in a lot of other games these days. And like, have they just been making this in a vacuum? Like, what's going on? It's weird.
It's weird because it feels noticeably. It's like it kind of feels like a nitpick to say it, but it's so in an inventory management game, it feels noticeably absent. And for a game that has a ton of collectible text, you're finding data pads all over the place. And
some of those are things that you can. Some of those data pads are like quest specific and like have security that if you crack the security on this data pad before you give it to somebody, a quest could completely change. And so like scrolling through to be like, what's the one thing that's going to say crack security on it? And how much of these is just like literal spam, dude? Video games with email terminals, they need to stop with the fucking fake dick pills spam. And like fake spam stuff. Like we're done. Every email terminal I feel like has at least one fake message, and you're just like, this isn't funny anymore. It's the year 2020. Like we've had a decade of games going like, hey, they got spam in the email. And it's like, all right, I get it.
More of them are like one is the real one, and there's like 5 spam things in there.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
You just need to find the code. But I mean, listen, I was kind of getting used to it again first 7 hours, but there was one thing where I got this shard or chit or whatever they call it, had money on it, and it was encrypted, and it had the description that said go into your journal and the journal tab, and then that's how you find the thing to decrypt it. And I swear I could not find it because it's not actually in your journal. You have to hover over journal in the menu icon, and then it branches out into 6 other options, and one of the options was shards. And that's where I wound up finding it. And then when I decrypted it, it was like just something dumb that was like, don't forget to drink your Ovaltine. But like it took me a while to just find it. And that's the kind of stuff that I find frustrating when and again, I think a couple of hours in, you should be able to navigate this stuff. I don't think I'm that incompetent, but that stuff feels to me and that stuff in the inventory with the clothing sometimes feels weird, where it's just like, man, do we really should I be equipping higher armor clothing all the time as I'm picking up new pants and boots, or should I? You just get so much stuff and it has stats on it, but it looks so dorky. I
love you are constantly finding new gear, and it's enough to make me wish this game was third person. Because the looks your character has over the course of this game are so stupid, where it's like I've got booty shorts and cowboy boots, and then I'm wearing like a reflective fucking village people like road worker jacket, and then I'm wearing a tactical vest over that.
So you're every village person combined.
Yeah, and I'm wearing fucking mirror shades that have 11 armor on them, and a bandana or like a fucking shitty fedora, and then. Bustier, and like
it makes no sense. Like you'll those booty shorts will have like 27 armor and a full tactical vest will have
kind
like
of space age polymers those things are made out of.
Sometimes it does tell you it's like Kevlar booty shorts, and it'll be like, oh, okay, well that does.
I got a leather skirt for a while that was like 17 armor, and I'm like, like I actually that is one of my favorite parts of the game is every time I pause and go to the equipped screen. Like my character just looks so stupid and so like and a lot of the looks are so mismatched and fucked up that you're like, no, that's Cyberpunk. Okay, yeah, no, you look like you just found some shit and you're like, I got to get out here and punch deck, motherfucker. Like that is one of the better parts of the game. Enough to the point like I wish you spent more time seeing your character. And also like mirrors are very buggy in the game. Backlar was saying yesterday that the game would drop down to like 2 frames a second for him. For me, like I looked in the mirror a couple times yesterday and my character was just like missing hair, like just her hair was gone, her equipment was gone, and just like it was just
damning seeing people talk about like the last cutscene of the game, watching their characters bug out, like in the big emotional payoffs and
very
stuff.
Believable that it would be that way.
Was it Gene Park at Washington Post that said that the like literal last frame of the game bugged out and he wasn't sure when it actually ended or something like that?
So the other weird thing with mirrors is, I mean, at least for me, I'm playing on 2070. Maybe there's a different option, but you load into them. Like you go to a mirror and turn it on because it's like a smart mirror, and then your character just kind of oddly stares at the mirror, and you have 4, or at least, I don't know if you get more later, but you have 4 options that look almost all identical. One is like smile, like
frown.
And she makes this like weird mechanical looking face that is just. I did it once. I don't know. Do you ever do it again?
No, you can do it all you want. I don't know what end. Like
it's a weird thing. I mean, there is a photo mode, so if you want to take pictures,
but like it feels like the facial animation there seems like I had one case where I hit smile and it didn't seem to do anything.
It's so weird.
It's just is this broken? I don't understand.
It's very odd. And yeah, I don't. Being able to see your character once in a while would be nice, and I guess it happens here and there. But yeah, it's like you can go third person in the car and spin the camera around. And
right. I think like maybe if like more of the cutscenes were third person in some cases, but you can actually through a lot of the dialogue sequences in the game, you're still moving around, and so you can walk away from conversations and they'll be like, hey, I was talking, or shit like that. But yeah, it's
Is anyone else dressed as ridiculous as you can wind up being?
I think on the street you see some people. I've seen some real like there's cool stuff. There was a thing in a hotel where all the people had like gold faces, and I was like, oh man, that's the backstory on all these people with gold heads that have to work in this fancy hotel is probably like, what job do you get after that? Like if you had to get your whole head gold plated just to be part of this hotel.
How was I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Speaking of bugs, I had somebody basically do a T-pose in a very serious scene, which Jeff, I don't know if I'll try and do it without giving it away, but it took part. It is a pivotal scene that takes place at the top of a hotel, and while you were hiding, and one of the characters was basically T-posed the entire time, so sliding across the floor back and forth.
Right.
So I didn't have T-pose, but there are a lot of characters that just like stopped animating and are just like shuffling around the floor and total static. In one case, I had a character that was like holding a big crate, but like it was stuck in some pose, and the crate was just going boom, beep, boom, beep, boom in front of him, like someone was playing with dolls, and it was just like.
Yeah, so it wasn't full T-pose, but it was the character was stuck and just doing the sliding back and forth. They're like, get out of here, and the person slid across the room out of there, which was and the other character's like, oh my god.
You gotta hope that like, and that's like the super ambiguous situation we're in where. Like they put out one patch in our like since we've had the game, and they've been like, well, there's still a day one patch coming. Right. But like a lot of companies when they and this is like a perilous thing I think for reviewers to rely on too much, but a lot of companies when they have a day one patch that hasn't hit yet, they'll tell you like, here are the bugs we're aware of that will be fixed. And like believing that whole cloth is like dangerous because then you write a review that says like there are no bugs, and then they don't actually fix them and you look like a dumbass. But like it would be nice to know at least like some of the things that they're like, oh, we're aware of that, we're fixing that, and you shouldn't see any of that in a couple of days. But instead it's just been like, day one patch is coming. I'm sure that like they're probably hey, they probably haven't gone home in a very long time, right? They're busting their ass getting this game done.
They at least did get out there about the epilepsy stuff, saying that they're going to put some additional warnings in there. So it's good to see that at the very least.
There's definitely a the BD device. I like closed my eyes for a second.
That was Game Informer ran a story. One of their editors actually had a seizure.
Oh my gosh, I could see it.
That part of the game, and
apparently it's like very similar to the actual thing doctors use to induce epileptic seizures. Like it's like the same sort of frequency and stuff.
It's just like how does this studio get to this point where this is the thing they've done without like anyone stepping in and going like, hey, we're not going to certify your game for release on consoles unless you put something more severe in here.
Apparently there's a line in the EULA about it.
Yeah, and I believe they said that they are going. Yeah, like you just said they're gonna make something a little more substantial there, but like.
That part's very intense. It puts two strobes in front of your eyes, and they just start, blinking in weird patterns. It's
a stylish effect.
It is, but it is supposed to like trick the player's brain into having this kind of virtual experience, and it is intense.
Yeah, but then so the first one of those I got, which was the robbery sequence that they showed. Like a couple, however many months back.
Oh, is it that detective mode stuff?
Yes, the Batman thing that they put in there. In that scene, a thug, punk guy comes in and robs a liquor store, and when I got to that scene, the guy's gun was just like sticking up out of his hand at some fucked up angle, and it was just like some straight up Mass Effect Andromeda stuff. And I was so thrilled that I just feel like, oh, I'm glad that we can just like see some Mass Effect Andromeda again.
God, yeah, they've almost hit the trifecta. They got the backwards gun, they got the T-pose and cutscenes. You just need like NPCs to start flying off into the sky.
The physics are jittery enough that if I've definitely seen some bodies do some weird stuff that like. So the thing I had happen last night a bunch is I would shoot enemies and finish them off, but they would ragdoll. They were done. You would see that they would have a loot icon on them, but they would occasionally keep talking. They'd be like, "We gotta flank them," but like no lip movement, just like a body sitting there. We gotta get them. I'm gonna come get you. And it left them in a state where they were completely unlootable because like the game still thought they were alive in some weird way. And like that happened a handful of times to me last night. And so, this game is really, really buggy right now. And we don't know how less funky or less buggy it will be in a couple of days. I imagine that they will have some patch to push in the near future, and they will probably have more to push after that.
Yeah, at least they've got a track record of like a positive track record of
launching games in a fucked up state and then redesigning large parts of them. Yeah, they kind of do,
and fixing a bunch of shit.
I mean, yes, their post-release support is pretty substantial.
I think on the other end of a game as popular and as lucrative as The Witcher 3, like maybe they could have done a better job this time around on that front. I don't know, like. They're not some small studio anymore. They're not, they're not, you're not like, I'm pulling for the little guy. It's like, hey, come on. This is a big deal. This is one of the most anticipated games of the year. You delayed it multiple times. Like, this is just, they don't get that, this is a Bethesda tier game from a studio.
I don't know if that's
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I hate it there too. Like I don't give them a pass. I think there is. If you're gonna put a lot of stuff in your game, I don't think this has to be the sacrifice of having guns disappear. And like I just had troops or people just with no guns walking around pretending to hold a gun the entire time, which is very Cyberpunk. And the other thing that I don't think is a bug is I was trying to stealth, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm having fun in here or not. And I think that's probably the bigger point. Like, am I enjoying the things I'm doing? Sometimes and sometimes not, but I was trying to do the stealth stuff and I was using my hacking abilities. But damn it, there's like 2 lines for the enemies that just walk around being like, "Let's see your pretty faceplate," and like where is she? Just over and over as you're sneaking around. Let's see your pretty faceplate, and it's like, okay, oh my gosh, to the point where I was like, all right, I'm just taking out my shotgun and getting through this because like. I'm so tired of hearing the same 2 lines over and over again. It was too much. That's a design thing. Like that's not, that's, I don't think that's a bug. If it's a bug, maybe they could enable the other lines.
Like, whoops, like 6 of these lines that didn't play or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of, and again, there's a lot of stuff like that. I think for me, it comes back to, I think a lot of the action and a lot of the gameplay is very standard. I think the shooting is really plain. That's to say, it's like it's functional, right? But at the same time, like a viable way to play this game is walk up to enemy, pull out pistol, shoot them in the head 8 times, see the word headshot pop off a bunch. So I got to a point in the game now where I'm getting smart weapons, and instead of a regular reticle and like, hey, here's where the bullets go, it's this big box. And like, hey, you just get the enemy in the box and pull the trigger and the bullets will swarm to get them. But that swarm takes way longer. And it's like the damage doesn't seem the same, even though the DPS is higher. And so I'm like, man, I hate these smart weapons. Like, this is terrible. And I just want to go back to weapons that shoot straight because like, I don't know who those smart weapons are for. Like the aiming is not difficult. But it's neat from a tech perspective, I guess. Yeah. But it's there's just stuff with the action where I feel like the stealth is not as, and that's, so I've been trying to do more and more stealth, more and more hacking. Like I went and upgraded optics and went and upgraded, bought a new deck to install better programs on it to
get better cool.
I've been investing in cool pretty heavily because I want to be cool. And I don't feel cool yet. And none of the items on the cool, I put some points into Cold Blood? Is that
yeah.
There's a whole
so.
separate spec tree for Cold Blood that is like, hey, you get stacks of that after a kill, and a bunch of stuff will proc off of that. And so even though that didn't look that interesting, I was like, I want to know. So I started dumping some points into Cold Blood and was like, okay, like you start to see more viable stealth builds, but I think the systems in the game are just not developed enough to make that as engaging as you want. Like you said earlier, it is very much like, I'm going to stare at this minimap. I'm going to tackle these enemies and stare at this minimap. I'm going to cast this here to blow up this robot.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn off all these cameras. But like turning off the cameras, it's, you hit a button and it happens. Like it's the only, like, there's like a little hacking mini game that shows up at certain access panels, but that's like you basically stealing money out of them and crafting components. It's not really a very vital thing most of the time. And
well, you get an ability to breach a system like once per encounter or room, which is like you can breach it, and you usually get like an option like turn off all the cameras or make everything else cost a fewer slots of RAM to hack later on.
And you can do them all if you're good at the little number maze they draw.
Yeah.
You can get multiple things out of it. And
right, and I think are they supposedly tiered difficulty, or is it just like is the top one always easier? I can never, because on the
top one is always shorter. So
okay, so on the access point one, you get less money or whatever for the top one, and then as you go down. But it's not. You turn the cameras off there, or you get you do this breach thing, and then the hacking the camera stuff.
It feels very like half a system, or the systems. I think a lot of the systems in the game don't integrate well with each other, and don't integrate well with the way you spec your character in game and all that sort of stuff. Like I've been speccing so hard away from guns into just like, no, I'm going to use like blunt objects. I'm going to beat people to death with a pipe when things go bad. I want to stealth up behind them and break their neck. Like I got to a point where I could finally buy an arms upgrade, and there are like 4 different arms upgrades. I got gorilla arms because it said you could rip turrets off of their perch or whatever to destroy them and rip open doors more easily. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. What I wanted was the mantis blades, which are like big old arm blades, but those don't do cool things other than stab dudes. And I have no problem stabbing dudes already. So that was like, that'd be flashy, but nah. Maybe when I have $1 zillion in it and a few hours, I'll buy them both and just swap them out. But it's
so you do get you get to hold 3 weapons, or at least I do it where I'm at, right? You get your 2 guns, and then either another gun or a bladed weapon or a melee weapon. And
I think you can put whatever you want in the 3 slots. I think it's just 3.
Oh, really? I thought the top 2 were only firearms.
No, I've been putting my knife in the top slot.
Okay. Oh man, look at you. So and then you can use them. There's melee. There's a whole first person, punch counter system mechanic in there, which a dodge also, which with the sword sometimes feels good, and you'll do like to get in there and swing or block. Doesn't feel super solid. Everything feels really floaty in that.
The hits don't connect quite the way you want to, and there's a series of side quests that are basically you going around getting in bare knuckle fights around the city. And even getting hit in those situations, it's just like, here's this giant character doing a kick animation. And you're like, did that hit me? And you just look up and see, oh, it drained all my health. So I guess that landed. Yeah. And that stuff feels really bad on the receiving end and on the giving end, where it just feels like the animations are playing out in front of each other. And like there's dismemberments. Like there are animations that will happen to enemies where it's like, oh, I shot them in the head while they weren't aware and their head blew up, or like, hey, this arm came off because I hit him with a katana. But like the actual just impacts don't feel right and don't feel good.
Which is weird because Witcher was all about getting those swords to feel right.
Yeah. Well, this is a very different game. It's a first person game. It's it's a lot of it's a very different thing.
So I think it's a lot of, so those are, I set up those things because like the positives wise, I think it's an interesting world, but it feels too cluttered it gets up its own butt a little bit, I think, in the stuff it's trying to give to you. Like in terms of being able to spec or the junk you're picking up or what you need to do. I think I would have, and for my personal taste, would have liked a little bit more curated approach to some of this stuff to make me feel special in this fantastic run. I think that's where I go back to, like, everything is amazing, and when everything's amazing, everything kind of becomes mundane. So like
every dildo has its own story.
Yeah, and you've got things that'll pop up and there are things you can hover over on the menu that kind of fills you in on where you are in the story. Or there's one point where someone says like, "Hey, you're V, you're famous." Like, it tries to imply that like you've made a name for yourself and you're on the way up and all this stuff. But like, the world doesn't change as a result of any of that stuff. Like, you feel like this very, you just feel like you're sleepwalking your way through it, I think, at times. And it's like the world is not reactive in the way that I would want. Like, it doesn't, the gangs and factions don't seem like they matter for all the, the gang trailer they put out. It's just like, all right, well, here's the triads equivalent and they all run pachinko parlors. And, here's the handful of other games. Like right now I have to go meet with a Haitian gang in Pacifica. Yeah.
So that's the question. The question I had wanted to ask, because Vinny brought up Bethesda and jank and so forth, is like what the level of world interactivity is. Like, can you go around and mess with people? Do they respond to that? Or do you have a reputation? Like, it sounds like the factions don't actually matter. Like, or to ask another way, like, can you roam the world and have fun and get into hijinks and stuff without ever actually engaging with the quest content? Or is it all just like, kind of
it's
like
a bunch of pedestrians
is it just
and
like static window dressing that doesn't really offer any gameplay potential?
It feels like a bunch of pedestrians that might as well not be there. You can hit the talk button on a lot of them and they are just like, "Hey, what are you looking at?" Or whatever. And if you bump into a cop, like if you encounter a lot of the enemy gangs around the city and stand around long enough, they'll be like, "What are you doing?" And they'll attack you. But by that time you've killed them all. Because it's not difficult combat at all. And so it's like, there have been situations where it's been like, "Oh, the way you handle that, the tiger claws aren't going to like that." I'm like, okay, but there's really nothing in there that seems to indicate like a faction status. There's no like real faction rep indicator. It's just like everything you do, you're building street cred. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to go shoot a bunch of criminals. I'm going to, like, there are missions in there that are like, go do stuff for the cops. And that stuff is always kill 4 dudes and loot a chest. And so that's just a side quest that is strewn about the map everywhere. And then you do all that and it goes like, you got some street cred. It's like, yeah, nothing gets you street cred quite like working for the cops. It's just,
there's nothing more cyberpunk than teaming up with police.
Yeah.
The biggest gang.
It's just kind of weird. I don't know. I've been kind of making my way around the world. I found so I was having some real problems with the driving, in terms of just like frame rate just would tank at a point where it's just like I can't the experience of driving in this game is so rotten that I ended up just like using fast travel more than I would have normally. But then I got a motorcycle and that seems to be a little better. And again, this is stuff that maybe they'll iron out, maybe they won't. And I've gone through the settings, and so so it's weird. I turned up all the settings and the game seems to run a little better. I just set it to ultra with ray tracing all the way up, and I'm like, oh, this actually seems to like be a little smoother in some ways than it was when some things were set too low and medium.
It's weird.
Well,
it's
a weird game.
I have mine running at ultra as well, and haven't had. Yeah. And I'm on a 2070. Haven't had many frame rate issues, except once in a blue moon in a cutscene or the mirror thing. It'll drop to like single digits.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine game. Like so far what I've played, but I think it's got like these annoyances in it, or it's like every time it feels so close to connecting, I feel like it whiffs or misses on something just a little bit in a point that like pulls me back out. Like every time I think I'm about to do something really interesting or cool, it doesn't quite connect with the ball, and so it kind of leaves it being like, this is fine. Like I don't. It's not like I sat down with it and was like, man, I can't tear myself away. There's definitely points where I'm like, okay, like I did that encounter, and got through it, and like I'm going to take a break here.
It's another, you know, to me it fills the same void of like those last couple of Deus Ex games, and you're like, yeah, this is all right.
yeah,
like I, you know, like, oh, your black and gold thing, that's, yeah, sure, like I you know, it's very much one of those types of games. It's very much the game of like, well, if you spec this way, here's the door you can rip open. If you spec this way, here's the door you can jack into and open. If you spec this way, here's the grate you can crouch through. If you didn't spec in any direction, there's still a way for you too.
Yeah, they're called guns.
Yeah, and so there's just it's got that vibe to it, and you know, I liked those Deus Ex games. You know, the one more than the other, I guess, but they were totally okay, and so. Like I'm playing this and going like, you know, there are a lot of ways where this feels like it could be better in terms of just how you build your character and the things your character is capable of and all that sort of stuff. And it's okay. I think I am interested in seeing how the main story hook resolves itself, but like the rest of the game has done such a poor job of world building and character building that my confidence in their ability to actually kind of stick an ending on this thing that feels like satisfying is pretty low.
That's a bummer. Because
that was like also like I want to see it. Like I, you know, like I'm having an okay enough time with it that I'm just like, well, and also like I'm getting close. I think I saw some people saying that, you know, they finished the game in like 18 hours.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, wow.
I was settling up for like, I thought it was going to be like a 30 or, you know.
Yeah, I think if you're doing side stuff, that's probably where you will get to with it. Because I am now about 19 or 20 hours in, and I'm kind of heading up on what looks like it'll probably be one of the bigger, like late Act 2 moments or something. And I could be wrong, and maybe there's another 10 hours to Act 2, but like it's. If you're mainlining your way through it, which, you know, I don't think that's the right way to play the game. Like, you know, but also that is the most engaging stuff. So I would not, you know, so far there's nothing I would say, like, oh, but if you only did the main quest, you'd miss this. And it's like, there's no this for that. There's no Bloody Baron. There's no, you know, just like
this is the coldest water I have heard anybody throw on this game versus what I expected out of it, because The Witcher was that, right? Like when you say, you said 18 hours and you're almost at the end of the game. Like,
I'm guessing there because like some people said that they finished it in 18 hours, right. and how viable that is, like, I don't know.
I put 50 hours into Witcher 3 and I barely got to Novigrad. Like I spent like 5 hours in Novigrad and then fell off the game or whatever. But there was just like so much stuff out there to do, and all the like the Bloody Baron and the crones and like every fucking homestead you came across that had a werewolf problem, it was like kind of interesting to go hunt down that werewolf, and they would have some little like nugget of storytelling there that made it feel meaningful. And like, I expected this was going to be the same thing, but in just like futuristic city setting, you know, of like, here's this giant like playground with all these little vignettes off to the side that aren't even main plot related, but are just interesting stories unto themselves.
And this is a game where it's like there are just icons on the map that say like, "There's crime happening here. Go kill these people for the cops." And here's this job, and you know, each little job is going to be slightly different. Some of it's like get in and kill a guy. Some of it's go in and steal an item, and they are unique locations and all that sort of stuff. But like, there just hasn't. You know, the secondary and tertiary quests that are in there don't feel that different from one another, and just kind of don't have that much going on. I mean, though at the same time, like the main quests feel like they have a lot of different ways you can go. Like, you know, you're going out to kind of kidnap a guy, and you are helping someone who will then in turn help you. And they've got dialogue options in there that are just like, no, we do my way first or this way first. And, you know, there are options there that seem like they could swing that thing in different directions. But yeah, like the side stuff doesn't seem the side stuff and the gigs are obviously just like icons on the map. Just go there and kind of like go do a quick thing. But like the side missions are not much deeper than that.
That's a bummer.
Or there are side things that are happening in like conjunction with the main storyline, and they aren't really side things and that sort of stuff. It's strange. I think is a lot of that stuff. Like you just kind of play it and go like, man, it really feels like that there should be more to this. Like there's hints of like, well, so you know, this lady sent me to go steal her data pad got taken by scavengers. So I go over to this place, and there's 8 guys sitting on a couch, and you do them all. You know, it's just like, all right, well, fuck you guys, and then go downstairs and get her thing, and then take them back to her. And she's super paranoid, so she has a military turret in her apartment. And I did this a few different ways because I was just curious to see how it would go. And it's the sort of situation where, like, that's another item that, like, you can crack her data pad and read the stuff on it if you want. And it's just more paranoid, crazy shit. And then the conversation with her then turns into just like, well, she knows you fucked with her stuff. And if you say no, it must have been something weird. They must have done it. I don't know. Like, you get like $300. And she goes like, well, I guess my wallet got fucked with too. And then that's the end of that. But if you just own up to it and go like, yeah, I looked at it, I wanted to see what you're doing, and then flatter her for being like, you're like a real net runner here, huh? And she goes like, well, thanks. And then she gives you like way more money. But like, that's the difference, right? It's like, it's that type of content in the way that these types of games do that type of content, if that makes sense. Of just like, it's the part and parcel thing that goes with the front door, the grate, or the fence you can rip open is the, like, what are the 4 different ways I can talk my way or speech check my way through this, depending on how I spect. And you see little moments here and there that you're like, oh, cool. But like, there's not a lot of depth to it.
Is that the modern day Trinity, like the whole like tank healer DPS back in the day? It's the, what is it? That's the door, air duct, computer terminal.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very it's got that thing that like mile wide, inch deep on a lot of it, right? Where it feels like it's dense, but like if you dig in too much, it's just,
like they just had a giant whiteboard and took down every idea of like, okay, what is cyberpunk? It's hacking, it's this and that, and instead of trying to like build a cohesive world that feels like let's think of the world first and then how to populate it, maybe more of a collection of ideas than like a cohesive kind of cyberpunk experience.
Sure. And I think like one of the other things we haven't even really touched on, but I don't know how much longer we want to go here, but like I feel like their take on cyberpunk, and I think some of this is probably them sticking to the source material. Like, this is a licensed game, remember?
Right.
And so a lot of the stats and a lot of the things come from that, which
Cyberpunk 2020, right, is the source material.
Yeah, well, I think they've changed the year on it a couple of times, as they've done new editions and stuff like that. But it feels very much like, and this cuts both ways. Like like a lot of the things you see in the story, even the main plot points that we're kind of not like deliberately talking around here, like have roots in things like, you know, you can draw comparisons to like a Johnny Mnemonic in some cases, or straight up Neuromancer in others, like some of the stuff they're doing. And they've got a twist on it, on the shit in your head and how you need to get the shit out of your head, which is like funny that Keanu Reeves is in this game, since it does have some of that. And I think it feels like this also ran like, I've encountered significantly better cyberpunk fiction than this, and some of it was written decades ago, and you know, obviously like that's something that's going to be hard to avoid. But it's not a particularly fresh take on the medium, on the style, on the genre, when it comes to that sort of fiction. And I think that some of the things they've done with the game's attitude and writing and just like the way they have tried to make it in your face and cursey, I think doesn't hit, and it just kind of feels amateurish in some ways. Like the writing and the tone of it just feels like you guys should have read those books a little more, or you know, like you could have probably done better than that.
Leaning a little more on the cyber maybe than the punk.
Yeah, the punk feels maybe the punk part feels maybe a little stale. Like it's definitely it feels like, you know, is this edgy for, you know, an adolescent and not for your corpo merc?
It's and it's just a lot of that's in the world building they do around the edges, in terms of just like, hey, there's a ton of advertisement and you know, products and ads for those products and billboards and all this other stuff, and you're just like, you know, there's a lot of you know, it's a skeevy world, right? It's you're dealing with the underbelly, so it's porny. You know, the game's full of dildos. You're going and finding the places where they record their weird VR porno.
And a lot of body horror, you know, like
and a lot of body horror of just like, here's this naked woman completely cut open on an operating table, and you're like, huh, that looks bad, you know, or whatever. But then you see billboards for just like, it's a lady with 3 mouths. And it's like a porn ad, and you're like, okay, I get it. Yeah, no. But then like, there's so much of that where it just feels like they're trying to be shocking in this really dumb way, where nothing is shocking in the game, because they've tried to turn the volume up on everything so much that you're just like, this is like, I don't know. This is like my dad's idea of shocking. Like, just look at it and just go like, whatever, man. It's like,
do you think maybe even like 5 or whatever years ago when they started development, it was a little more not progressive, but
a little more? Yeah, no, not progressive.
Trying to think of like, you know, new
transgressive, like pushing some envelope or whatever.
Pushing the boundary,
but it basically sounds like that fucking soda ad. Were you the one that posted that soda ad that's just like, drink this or fuck off?
Yeah, it's that. It's like this like sub-idiocracy level of just like satire of what the world has become, but it's been done so better in so many different places by now that it just feels stupid. And I think that's the thing about like the stuff about like the character creator and being able to choose genitals and the, you know, the kind of transphobic stuff around the edges of it, or that you just look at and just go like, you know, if all that material had been in the game, but they had maybe had something to say about it, then maybe someone could
have it.
Yes, maybe someone could be ashamed of their words and deeds over some of this material, but instead it just feels like they threw it all in there. They have nothing to say about any of it. It's just in there to be like, whoa, man. And you're like, there's nothing whoa, man, about anything in this game. Like, it's just kind of like, all right, okay. Like, there are so many things in that game that I just kept going like, fucking what? Like, just jack off motion over and over again. Like, whatever, guys. Like, it's so corny in so many different ways with some of that shit. And that's like the disappointing. Like, this could have been done better. This should have been done better. And I think that's like the disappointing part for me is like, mechanically, you know, they'll get on the other side of the bugs, and mechanically it'll be like whatever. Like, could it be better? Absolutely. But if it still had like a good story hook and a good world, and they built all this stuff, you know, that's still cool.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't land that stuff either. And I wonder, you know, like someone, a friend of the site pointed this out yesterday, is that like, hey, they've got a multiplayer game coming. Is all of this stuff super flat and like the fixer dialogue, the way it just kind of pops up in a window and they give you generic missions over and over again? Like, is this a game they built because they want to build GTA Online down the line or something like that? Or are they going to build something, you know, like that there? And I could see it. I wonder if that colored what this game ended up being or something. But it's just, I mean,
like, that's most AAA games at this point, right? They want to make some sort of like everlasting.
Sure, yeah, but you know, like so many of the different things feel like they could be ripped out and new content dropped in, because it is just a face in the corner reading a thing off to you or just text on screen. You just go like, huh, shit. Like, yeah. I guess it would be really easy for them to just like gin up 1 billion of these and feed them to people in a multiplayer setting or something like that. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see on that. I don't know. I guess like but that's some, like my takeaway, and you know, I'll play it to completion, and we'll probably have a little bit more to say on it. We'll record some video of it, you know, later this week. But I think so far, like I think I'm just disappointed because a lot of this stuff feels like it could be better. And it seems like they just made some questionable choices with the tone of it, and that the systems and stuff, if they just worked a little bit more in concert with one another, they could have something that would be pretty cool. And instead it's just like, yeah, all right. Like I like Deus Ex. Hey, you know, Alpha Protocol was good. You know, it's one of those. It is one of those.
You're saying if they had Matt Rory on this game,
then you would have seen some serious shit.
Everything could have been different.
Everyone with their shoes off.
That's right. Way more vodka.
Vodka, you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think I want to see the. I want it to be more interesting in the combat. So I don't know. I want to spec and drop points in to those massive trees or whatever those things are, and have it feel cyberpunky, have it feel unique. So I'm hoping that happens.
I'm hoping, and you know, maybe there's still time to completely turn me around on it, but like I want to see cyberspace. Like the hacking and the spell, like it is a book with spells, and it is basically not entirely unlike Watch Dogs Legion, where you're just like highlighting a target and hitting a button, and it's like, I'm burning, and then that's it, and then he attacks you because you burned him.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yes, if I knew where it was. Yeah, and so like that, the literal cyber aspect of the game,
yeah,
is just reduced to I'm highlighting a thing and doing a thing. So I have to imagine they wouldn't have made. There has to be some big Act 3 like jack in. Fucking, we gotta get the ice. We gotta like. I want
to run the net.
Yes, if I don't fucking punch deck in this fucking game, then it's not. What the fuck are they like? That is like the thing that as I get further along in the story, and there hasn't been any big thing like that, I'm getting more and more worried that there's not going to be any representation of cyberspace. And then it's like, what did you even make? Oh,
I think maybe the menus and the talent trees are the
right. Yeah.
Saints Row 3 even had cyberspace representation.
Yeah.
I like Vic. I think Vic's a cool character.
Yes.
I think I relate to Vic. Vic. I
want to pay Vic back.
Vic's your Ripper Doc.
You need a Dr. Vector.
Dr. Vector.
Vector. What's the Vector Victor?
That dude seems cool. I don't know. He's seen some stuff. And
Cyberpunk character you'd most like to punch deck with.
I just want to hang out with Vic.
Okay, you want to hang out with him in Meat Space. I get it.
Yeah, yes, that's right. In Meat Space. Yeah, there was a part in the game where I thought things were going to turn around in an interesting kind of a Deus Ex way, where I went to a bar and there was somebody tending bar who had no implants at all. Everybody in the game has implants, all stuff on their face and their necks, or nothing on them at all. But none of the dialogue options were like, talk to this person about, is this a normal thing? Like, what is this world? Where are there people who choose not to get implants? And maybe that's in some of the hundreds of background stuff you find. At some point, I have to stop reading it because there's so much.
There is a Ripper Doc, not Victor, but a different doctor that you can go buy implants from, and he is not modified in any way, but he's jacked. He's like, and if there is a dialogue option that's just like, so you put this stuff in people, but won't get any yourself. Like, well, I got to make money off all these chromers. Yeah, like basically, it's just like, I don't want to poison my body with that bullshit. Like it's that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. I also this as somebody who does like reading the side text, and there's a lot of it from these little data pads. You find a lot of the same ones over and over again.
Yeah,
and
you do.
And you can take them or you can read them. I kind of wish they just told you up front whether you have this already or you've read this already. So, because it is a game when you scan a room, there's stuff to pick up all over the place. From ashtrays to dildos to things. To the point where like I'm running through this combat or I'm just getting through this and then like I'm just picking up stuff as I'm going through, because I just want to get it later, or shot a guy. I haven't found the combat incredibly hard. You got a lot of health items, or at least I have gotten a lot of health items. And so like I'll kill a guy and then just loot him, because I always forget to loot the bodies. I'll loot them while they're shooting at me and just be like, all right, I'll just get this stuff and go back. But yeah, there's a lot of it's dense, but I don't know how much of it I want to engage with. I think that's my problem. It feels like there's a lot there, but every time I look at it, I don't know if it's that fun. So I think I'm gonna keep going. Or not? Maybe it's not obvious. I would like to keep going because I want it. Because it feels like a game that might be exponential in its fun. And Jeff, you're further along than I am, so I don't know, but there's so many options for speccing. I mean, those talent trees really are kind of a mess, but there's like 15 different ones, each one having like, I don't know, 20 different options in it to drop points into. So like you can drop points into them. And I don't know at this point, even this far in, how differentiated it gets by the end.
It's a lot of stuff that's just like 15% bonus to this, 15% bonus to that. Like most of those things on those perk trees, which you have to level up the main stat to even be able to access some of those. But it'll be stuff like, oh, you get 10% more stamina. Yeah. You get 15% faster reload time with shotguns. You get, you regenerate health outside of combat. Like, I feel like 5% of the things that I have spec'd into or spent spec points on have been things that have been like, oh, that's cool that I can do that now. And it is stuff like, oh, I can regen outside of combat, which is good because then I don't have to dick around with the health items as much. Right. But it turns out it only regens up to a certain point, so it's not actually that useful. Like very few of the things I've seen on the and I actually spent like an hour going like, I'm going to look at everything on all these perk trees so I can figure out where I want to go, like what I want to spend points on to get to, and I came away from it going like, none of this seems like it matters that much. Like the main stats matter because those are skill checks, and it'll be like, oh, well, if you didn't put 7 into reflexes, this dialogue option's locked out. If you didn't put 9 into cool, you're not gonna be able to say this cool thing. If you don't keep leveling up your intelligence, there's going to be panels that you can't access and jack into, and that's money you're not getting, and all this other stuff. So the stats have just felt like, oh, well, there are skill checks I'd like to pass, but like none of the stats, even with the base level stats, I'll do things like, hey, you get 5 more stamina per point of body, you get 3 more health, or whatever it is, you get 5%, 1% bonus to your evasion for every point in reflexes and all that sort of stuff. But like, really, the stats have just felt like meaningless in that sense. Like, I don't come away from leveling up feeling like more powerful. I feel just like, oh, well, when I get to like the next tier of missions and suddenly all of the skill checks that say 9 say 11, I want to be able to do them. So the main levels feel like they matter, and the perk points feel a little empty, I guess.
Put all your points in the mustache; it'll work out.
It's worked out for me.
Yep, that's right.
And there's like when you get into Act 2, a glitchy, weird new stat shows up with no text on it, and that had better just at some point that just needs to light up and say like deck punching, fucking ice breaking. Something.
All right.
Cyberspacing.
What if this winds up being an isekai? Like you just get jacked out and you've been magically transported to this world and you've just been a normal guy the whole time.
Oh shit.
What if it's dot hack?
What if it's dot hack?
What if it's dot hack?
Yeah, but I guess like the way cyberspace has been represented, I think in the tabletop, the RPG, the source material. It sounds like it's one of those things that it kind of could be anything, which I like conceptually in terms of just like some people playing it. And this is from me reading up on it. It's been forever since I've read any of those source books or any of that cyberpunk stuff from the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. Is that there is an element of just like you could have cyberspace be like a fantasy dungeon, and that would be on brand for what cyberpunk is. It could be damn near anything. And so I hope that they have some fun representations of cyberspace in the back parts of that game, because if there's no representation of cyberspace, then that is like, I feel like someone needs to show up at their door and be like, hey, your license has been revoked.
Yes, your cyberpunk privileges are being taken away for sure. All right, Cyberpunk 2077, it's almost out.
Yeah, someone in chat says, what if it's The Witcher? Actually, I think that would be like if you jacked in and it was just like,
that's not bad,
The Witcher, that would be funny.
In third person.
That's an angle you could take.
Yeah. Hey, like give me something. Give me an angle somewhere.
All right, we got to take our break. We'll go towel off a little bit after that. Kind of get ourselves back in the game. We'll be right back. Immortals Fenyx Rising.
Oh, jeez.
That's us.
What, Jason?
It's a Fall Out Boy song.
What?
Damn it! I thought I was done with this game. And
My
then-
Immortal.
You know what? I saw you on my friends lists the night before last playing this game, and I was like, wait a minute. It sounded like he wasn't going to play this game anymore.
I don't know, that's kind of mindless that's
Okay.
I don't know, like just give me a bunch of shit to go
Okay,
and do.
you got the game for that,
It's got
though.
some hack and slash. Are you saying that it's the type of game that Jason would like? That it is, in fact,
Stop it.
perhaps
Stop it.
a Jason game?
It's not a Jason game.
It's kind of a Brad game, actually. I'm like,
Yeah.
There
it's
you
okay.
go.
That game's all right.
It's all right.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
it is
Yeah.
totally fine.
I'm-
And I'm picking up more stuff like destinations to go and to discover and whatever. So I'm getting less of the dialogue, which has been great.
Okay.
So I've been into it a lot more.
like-
But anytime they do open their mouths, I'm just
I feel like most
Wow.
of those cutscenes needed another pass on them for like animation and editing or something. Like they
There's
just
so many of
a
them
little bit
for
rough
every
around
little
the
thing you
edges.
do.
It's
Yeah.
not even the cutscenes. It's just like the
constant chitter.
it's the narration. You know,
yeah.
I feel like that if you just took that game and turned all the narration off and still had the rest of the dialogue in it, it would be a better game.
I don't think it's. I'll put it this way: you guys described it as Borderlands-like last week, and I feel like that is maybe a little harsh.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
like,
Borderlands like. It is
It's not
similar.
that- it's not
in
that
its,
grating,
like,
though.
It's about I mean, it's not
I think it is.
full on Borderlands, but it is in that same sort of like we are being irreverent and we are going to let you know every inch of the way. We are going to make double entendres every chance we can. We are going
Yep.
to make references to drugs every chance we get.
What are you smoking? Because I want some too.
Yeah, I did hit that line.
so it's like Borderlands. Then is what you were saying.
it's a little
Okay,
Yes, occasionally,
And
yes.
it's weird because, like, yes, Greek god, like, a huge part of the Greek god mythos, specifically Zeus, is all about like being extremely horny and like wanting to fuck everything. Like that is true to life. But
yeah, true to the actual
True to
Zeus.
real life.
true to
Yeah.
the real ass Zeus, my friend. And like,
Read
but like,
biography.
you see how a game like Hades handles it, where it's like, it's not just a joke for joke's sake, like mentioning sex. It's like, no, this is a part of their character, and we're going to explore it. Versus this is like, did you guys know we fuck?
I do.
What?
Oh,
We tried going over some. We were going to introduce some mythology to the kids. You know, as you do at
Oh.
a certain age.
mhm. So they're ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah, when they get ready. My son was reading Percy Jackson, and we're like,
Oh,
we should
yeah.
read
You
this.
decided. I get it. You decided it was time to have the talk
It was time to have
about the Greek pantheon.
When a cow and a woman love each other very much.
When a bull loves a woman, and then we're like, oh man, there's got to be some like just washed version of this. It's like not the horrible. It's some of that stuff is not great in terms of child friendly.
It's true. It's true.
But there's like no one aspect of that game is very remarkable, but there's so much of it,
Right.
and there's so much variety, and it's just a giant
Yeah.
map full of stuff to do, and some of it is
and
so
I've been able to-
arbitrary. Like I did a slide puzzle in the middle of the world. It was literally like
Yep.
a sliding tile puzzle. I don't know how many of those there are, but it's just like, are you just gonna throw tic-tac-toe in here as a hurdle to
And
get
why
some
not?
loot? You know what I mean? It's like they don't.
And
They're just
I
like
can't
unashamed
stand those
about.
things, so I'm able to just skip those completely if I
Yeah.
so desire. Like I've only been touching the stuff that I even remotely interests me, which has been nice. It's none of it's really forced upon you, I guess, except I guess some of the labyrinths. Or is that what they're called? I don't know what they're called.
The
Dungeons?
Vaults.
Rifts,
Tartaros,
vaults of
Vaults
Tartarus,
or something
like
yeah,
that.
something like that. Yeah, Vaults of
Tartarus.
Tartarus.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the combat's picking up a little bit. I picked up one of the moves where you like hold down the attack button and you like jump up in the air. You can continue to do air combos and stuff. So it's a little more active. And
I like a Jason game.
Oh,
It's got a launcher.
a jug.
it's got a launcher and air juggle.
Okay,
So I'm-
all right,
now we're
okay.
talking.
It's ticking off the boxes here. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I agree that that method of revealing icons on the map is like borderline useless at times because like
So bad.
because like
so bad.
you pop that
dude.
view up and it shows every icon you've got, even if it's all the way across the map, right? And it's just this giant jumble, and you can't tell what's what. And it's
It's
that could
so
be
ridiculous how you like unearth those as well because
Yeah.
you've got to go into that view and you can actually be standing in front of a wall.
Mhm.
Your view completely obscured, but you can just kind of henpeck and
right.
just
Yeah. Like they
Yeah,
need some, they
just
need
find
some
stuff
like
beyond the
they
wall.
need to like restrict how far things can be away before you can't see them anymore or whatever. But like
yeah.
the most fun I've had with that game is just roaming, just finding stuff to do, just wasting time. Basically, it's a good time waster.
I like
It's-
chopping down trees and getting apples.
Yeah.
That's been fun. Or
I
pomegranate.
could see someone playing this as like a podcast game
Yeah,
because then you get
totally.
the side benefit of turning it the fuck down.
Right.
That's what I did with Borderlands.
It's just a giant map full. It reminded me of Kat Bailey from US Gamer had a good line about Ghost of Tsushima a few months ago, which is that it was, I think the way she put it was, it's pure video game junk food. And
Yeah, sure.
That describes this to a T, basically. It's just like, it's cheesy and like we're kind of repetitive, but you can just kind of like flop on the couch and screw around and have some fun with it. So
It's a B game.
yeah.
Big game. There's no heavy lifting involved with this game so far. So,
No, you use that bracelet. And
Yeah,
that,
it's the bracelet
that
do all the
Kevlar's
heavy
pretty
lifting for
light.
you. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I wanted to I shouted it out on the quick look, but I think that game is actually really progressive in its accessibility options. Tons of super customizable stuff. You can turn anything on the HUD off or on piecemeal. Like you can turn, like there's 14 different things you can turn on and off. At the beginning, it's telling you exactly what's different between the levels of difficulty. I think that's
they even give you like hints for quests and and puzzles and such.
That's something that like I would love to see all AAA games adopt to a degree. Like I loved being able to turn off the HUD completely in God of War, except for like one thing. I just really love when games do that.
Also, another game with a Destiny cursor, for what it's worth.
Add it to the list.
Yes.
I've been playing mouse and keyboard, so I didn't notice that, but that is funny.
Also, I'm playing it on PS5, and the performance mode there has got like a pretty prominent stuttering problem that apparently is unique to that version, and they say they're working on it and going to patch it, but it's just like I'm also thinking about not playing Cyberpunk for a little while until they patch that thing a couple times. It's just like what are video game launches in late 2020 at this point? I'm just like eyeballing forum threads and patch notes, waiting to play stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway, that game seems all right.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Here's your wrestling minute.
So Enway, the developers of Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, put out a new side-scrolling fighting game, and I was like, shit, okay, because it is WWE Undefeated. And I was like, oh man, like the thing I've thought for a while is like, man, if someone made a good fighting game that was just a side, like a real fighting game, one-on-one, and put WWE characters in it, you could do something really cool with it. But I wonder, so they have made two games. There's Battle for the Grid, which came out on consoles and is, it's a fighting game. It is surprisingly all right. But there's a mobile game called Power Rangers Legacy Wars, and I'm wondering if this is more that, because this has cards.
Yeah, so that was their first. That was their first game, and that's what kind of got them in the good graces to be able to make that fighting game.
Yeah, so it's you can play as you. It's a gotcha game in the sense of just like, oh, I got a AJ Styles and I'm gonna level him up, and here's the Rock or whatever, and you get them out of loot boxes that need an hour and a half before you can fucking open them and all that other crap. And it's like I was still like, okay, but like the part that kind of broke me on it is you equip a deck of cards and then you have a meter that fills up from 1 to 10, and each card costs a certain number of points to cast, basically. And then they build a system of strikes are faster than grapples, but grapples do more damage. You can block strikes, but not grapples. So you're open to they kind of build that system with the cards, so you customize your deck accordingly. But it just made me want an actual fighting game. And not this weird card stuff. It's kind of frustrating because you look at it and go like, man, if they took these character models and some of these environments and
good,
they look all right. It's got a style to it for sure. And if they did that and just made something that was a more traditional fighting game, I would be pretty excited about it. And I hope that they get to do that the same way they did with Power Rangers. But yeah, it's a little hard to get into because it is so just kind of slow with like, oh, okay, well, I've got 6 mana and now I can cast the Styles Clash. Oh, wait, he hit punch and stuffed me and now I have to wait to do this. And it's just too slow. And all you do is swipe back and forth to move. There's no jumps, there's no nothing like that. So not great, but I hope that it leads to good things in the future. Because if they were able to pivot this into something where you're, doing fireballs or whatever to do clotheslines or whatever, like that could be kind of rad.
Yeah.
In the way that Power Rangers game was like surprisingly good.
Yeah.
And they supported it for
it really well. Yeah.
Long time. They added like full on voice acting and story mode and tons of characters and stuff. So.
Yeah. I hope that it'd be cool if they got a chance to do that, but I wonder if just the WWE has a lot of licensing deals for video games already that might prevent them from doing this for consoles or something. So, maybe it never happens.
Clause that says that you can't do TAC Infinites to Triple H.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's that. It's out now. It's better than I thought it would be, but still not the thing I wanted it to be, I guess.
Hey, man, at least it's not WWE Supercard.
As new season of that just started.
Wait,
I thought about picking that back up.
Wait, I thought they shut that down.
No, they shut down the Idol game. What was that called? What was that called? Casey Malone's WWE. I forget the actual name of that thing, but the Idol game they did is they shut that down. But Supercard is still going. Supercard.
They added a War Games mode to it.
They did. Yes. Yeah.
War Games.
Speaking of still going, that Destiny next gen upgrade came out this morning. That shit loads real fast. The load times are really fast.
It's great looking HDR lighting,
Yeah,
and just like I only popped into the tower real quick on Xbox because that was the one that finished downloading first, and I was like, hey, this looks pretty nice.
It runs real smooth.
Yeah. Runs real nice.
Yeah, runs real good. Loads real fast. Still Destiny.
And that's just a patch, or you have to re-download?
No, well, I guess on Xbox
Depends.
does it? Yeah, on Xbox did it just upgrade for you? I haven't messed with that.
Yeah, like the smart delivery, capital S, capital D.
Thank you.
That just kind of turns into that version on PlayStation. This was the most convoluted PS4 to PS5 I've done
it's
yet.
Like worse than the other PS4 to PS5 ones, which seems like a pretty high bar, and yet here we are.
Yeah, there were drop-down menus that I got to where there were two items, and both of them just said the word game.
Yes, I took a screenshot of that because I had the exact same thing, and they literally both just say game, and they're like, fucking, do I want game or do I want game? Like, what are we doing here?
Do they have like file size?
No,
game.
Which one did you pick? I know.
So I backed out of that, and so basically I had to like go to the store and search the word Destiny.
That's how I ended up getting
to
it.
I found one that was a free thing that said Destiny PS4 and PS5, and I was like, okay, I probably need to own that.
Which
so I pushed the button on that.
Different from how all the other ones have been, which all say like free PS5 upgrade or whatever.
Yes, yes, they have handled this. It is different than how they've handled all their other PS4 and PS5 stuff. And then, so I basically added it to my library from that screen, backed all the way back out to my library, and then was able to find a PS5 Destiny there.
That's exactly how it went for me.
You need to make like one of those YouTube videos that you open Notepad on and type the instructions where you don't talk, and it's like how to upgrade, how to get your thing.
Here's my cool toot on how to.
Just links below to all the files. Yeah, that's wild.
So did you?
Yeah, it was significantly more steps than the typical upgrade, which is still, I think, even the standard way they've done PS4 to PS5 has been not great.
Yeah.
But improvements on the actual game once you're in it?
Yeah, it's exactly what you think. Like you know how that game loads? You know how like your ship kind of assumes a flight path and that's the loading screen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ship barely has time to settle into its straight flight path, and then it immediately breaks out of it and flies down to the planet, and it's done. Like it's.
So what do you think happens if you're playing a next gen version with somebody who's on the current gen? You think you just kind of you wait for the lowest loader, or do you?
That's what Call of Duty does.
It does.
Yeah, so, Call of Duty is like a hilarious on that front because when you're playing competitive multiplayer, those maps just fucking pop, and you're in there selecting your class, and then it just says waiting for other players.
Oh, okay.
And
so
you're just like, shit, man.
So if you're in a strike team and somebody's a little slower, you don't think you'll actually I forget what their word for it is, transmit or whatever to the
transmat.
Transmat to the planet, or you think you'll wait in the
I want to say when you go into strike matchmaking, I feel like I've seen cases where you get there before another player.
Yes, it depends on the activity. Strikes, I think, will throw you in there as soon as you're done, and you can just go.
Okay. And you just go and leave that other player. Hey, you got your Sparrow, catch up.
Gambit and Crucible, they make you wait in kind of a lobby hopper type spot.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
People have gotten...
I guess I don't know if it's both versions, but I guess they've got 120 hertz for Crucible in there now.
Yes, I saw that on PS5. People have gotten really fucking fast at doing the strikes in that game. Like,
I bet. Yeah.
I've been playing a little bit off and on, and like my strike completion times are like 8 minutes per now.
Is that good?
Yeah,
that sounds
you kind of don't have to do anything. People just get in there and do it for you if you just want to kind of run behind them and get the stuff.
Great. Love it.
I finally caught up, and I think I'm almost done with the Forsaken. Is that the what's the last one?
The good one. Oh,
The bounties.
oh, the lat. Mm.
The one was
Forsaken was the one with the bounties.
yeah,
the
the one
moon.
bounties, the Cade.
That one was
Oh,
good.
you mean like the go kill the trickster and the
I like that one.
demolitionist? Yeah, that is the
enjoying
best. That is the best expansion they have done ever. I think.
Yeah, that one's fun.
It's really good.
So this one is not as fun.
This one's okay.
All right.
The last one that came out with the sundial, I got to like the sundial for the first time, and then it bugged out and never told me what I'm supposed to do there, and I never figured it out.
Well, so that was the season after the paid expansion. Like that's their whole seasonal thing every 3 months now. So yeah, I also tapped out right at the beginning of that thing.
Whereas just like I'm just standing here and there's an arrow pointing in a direction that I can't actually run in, and it was just this like really, it just felt like the game completely broke. And I loaded back in and it just didn't guide me in any direction. So I've seen other activities that are like, hey, you can do this and it'll benefit on your sundial runs or whatever the fuck activity they came up with around it. But I don't even know what that is. It was just like this bizarre. Yeah.
We should play some Destiny
Sure.
sometime soon. All right, last thing real fast, Jan. I am happy to hear somebody here is finally playing Star Renegades because that looks cool.
Oh man, I think this is a Jan game.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
What is
Okay,
Star
hang on,
Renegades?
we get my
I've never even
notepad
heard
and
of
start
this.
jotting down.
Like
cool.
a turn-based, so it's basically Advance Wars then,
Okay.
or is it
Iridium-
Kingdom Hearts?
Are there high school students? What?
There's no high school students.
Okay.
There's no naked people in mechs. Well, actually,
We can't really tell what happens inside the mech, but
not just yet. So Star Renegades, it's a roguelite turn-based game. You assemble a team. You start with a team of 3. You eventually recruit more folks, and you have within each planet 3 days to get to the core or like your objective, which is generally just fighting like the big boss of that planet. You have like 3 little pips of energy per day, so you wind up navigating on the map how to best get to the boss character of the planet. But from there, you can go off to like little side deviations of like, hey, there's coins here, there's health here, there's equipment here. But your party's really neat, and like the combat's really neat in the way it's turn-based. You can target enemies, and you have a timeline at the very top of your screen. And if you kind of pile on to a specific enemy, you can wind up pushing their turn further down the timeline to help out other characters. So the main character that I'm using, she has like this cleave attack that does a lot of heavy damage, but it winds up putting her turn later on your timeline. But with your gunner or your other members of the team that you wind up recruiting, you can push like a target's turn later on in the sequence, or completely off the sequence entirely. You can break their turn. So you can wind up doing a bunch of big damage. You can also so everyone has shields. You have a health meter and then an armor meter, kind of like in Slay the Spire, how you'd wind up having those before you're doing any actual damage. And then from there, depending on what like build or characters you're bringing into your run, there's like a million different types of damage. Like there's you're burning them, you're bleeding them. There's like psionic damage and all this other stuff. There's a bunch of different character types. Well, not a bunch of different character types. There's about like 9 that I've seen. And you wind up positioning your characters, and that winds up being very important. The on the run that I'm on now, I have a shield character up front that winds up having like a vampire ability where she can steal shields from the opponent, and to damage my back line, which is just mostly like gunners and a couple spell users. The enemies have to damage my front unit, and since she's like a heavy shield lady, she's taking all the damage, and my people in the back aren't taking any, and they're completely safe. It's really neat. The runs wind up taking a long time. I've made it up to the 3rd planet, and as you progress through it, as you advance to another planet, you're gaining a new party member. So you start with 3, but then you wind up having 4. It looks like there's space up to 5.
Are you permanently unlocking these, or is this just like on a per run?
So per run, you can wind up recruiting characters that you haven't unlocked yet. But from the very beginning of your run, you have the ability with some of the currencies that you're unlocking as you play through to permanently unlock folks. So you don't have to start with the same 3 you started with at the very beginning. You can pick and choose from there. And that winds up being really neat because you could get really spicy one run and just try and do as much AoE to everyone as fast as possible, or you could just play really safe and just have like a slower build to kind of like grind your way through. At the end of each night, once you've expended your 3 little pips of energy, you're using these cards to either heal up your characters or give them additional bonus effects to their attacks. And from there's also a companion meter that's building up. You're building up social links with your party.
Ooh.
And as you progress that, you wind up doing like if you advance that further enough, you can do like a double team attack. There's a bunch of little meters going on. It's really neat. I really, really like the look of it. It kind of reminds me of what's that? Was it a Cappy game? I forget the game that it reminds me of.
Below?
It kind of reminds me of like a Space Below. This game is like, if you like the movie, the Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow, or
like
I Repeat, this game is exactly that.
Okay.
It's got a good like 16-bitty but modern kind of look to it.
Are you playing
Super Time Force, the game you were trying to think of?
Super Time Force. That's exactly what it reminds me of.
Yes.
Are you playing on Steam or Switch?
I'm playing on Switch. Unfortunately,
how is that running there?
The Switch port isn't the best or smoothest. I've experienced like a bunch of slowdown, which is interesting based off like how the game is. But yeah, I've had like a couple runs. I haven't made it to the very end yet, but I'm planning on sticking with it. It's really freaking neat.
Yeah, it looks cool. I've heard a lot of buzz about it. Apparently, it's on PC Game Pass as well.
Oh,
cool.
yeah. So if you got that, pick that bad boy up.
Yeah.
Star Renegades.
Star Renegades.
Yeah.
A lot of timeline games.
A lot of timeline games.
A lot of games of knocking people around on timelines.
It's kind of like living the same moment over and over and over. Nothing ever changes.
Wow.
Day to day.
You got the truth, man.
Yeah. Speaking of which, who's ready for some news?
I totally am.
That's exciting.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's in my timeline right now. Here it comes. Can't knock it back anymore.
Vinny, I'm so glad you're here this week.
Fantastic. Why?
You picked this out for Vinny.
Because
which one of these fantastic stories
which one could I possibly be talking about?
could apply to me? Hopefully it's a good one.
because
Who's in trouble now?
Researchers, oh boy. Well, it's definitely not the researchers at the Visual Perception and Attention Lab at Brunel University, London.
No, where I am an honorary member. I'll just say thank you very much for bringing that up.
Are you part of the study?
No, I'm Dr. Caravella.
Oh,
Thank
of
you.
course. Yes.
He's on the board.
Of course, yes.
I'm above the board.
Yes, Professor Emeritus. They're launching a study about why some people like to invert their look controls in video games.
Or why or another way to say it is why some people don't invert their look control.
This is exciting because we'll finally, have the power of science to get down to just what's wrong with these people.
Yeah, so we can treat the problem at its root and
exactly.
eradicate it in the future.
Yes, apply the analog stick directly to the forehead.
Why do you think that a guy walking around in a video game is an airplane?
Well, why do you think why do you think looking up is like on a flat 2D plane? How come you don't think you're tilting your person's head forward and back?
Because
don't
I
have it stuck in
have
the
never
back.
been a cameraman for a living.
Fair enough.
I have never worked a tripod other than occasionally to go like, oh, I think I get it now.
Yeah, you
Because
gotta
when I
go.
want to look down, I
Oh
go
no!
down.
Wait, Jan, do you
When I want to
invert?
look up, I go up.
Jan,
I
do you
think
invert?
I do invert my control too.
Wait,
How are you just now realizing?
They might be able to save them scientists a lot of work here. We'll let them know. I don't know. This sounds cool. Like, it sounds like they're getting into a bunch of like cognitive research about how people perceive movement and like, do they learn visually or like through sense of body and blah, blah, blah. It sounds like they've got all this stuff mapped out. They apparently were inundated with volunteers. Like they rapidly got way more than the 500 people they need.
Please.
People are very eager to participate in the study for whatever reason.
Just people got a lot of free time right now.
That's yes.
I did not make the age range for the applicants, and I was offended by that. Okay, it was like the cutoff was like 34 or something like that.
Your mind is rock solid. It's not going to change, old
They're
man.
probably like, Yeah, you probably grew up playing bad flight sims on like a like we know why you're broken. We want to get to you probably played Sunshine, so you're just your data is broken.
I mean,
we're not looking for people that use a HOTAS. We're looking for people that use a BROTOS.
I mean, they just wanted to enlist people that they still have time to help.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's also fascinating. I think it's really interesting. Well, of course I would. That more people don't like that. I guess it's because the standard became not to invert, right? So that more people just learn playing games that way. And so it makes sense to me. I have learned to play Goofy Foot or whatever, whatever you guys call it. I don't know. Because I don't want to set all the settings for my kids. So I want them to play how they want to play, because I think it is a learned thing that you just get comfortable with, and it's hard to break out of that.
Well, we'll see with the study. I mean, this study will probably be the thing that kind of dictates that a little bit. Yeah, that says like, hey, maybe it's not just a learned thing. Yeah.
So is this just the beginning of Halo? They're going to show their red.
Yes.
Hey, Chief. Hey, no, seriously. Hey, boss, Chief. Look at the lights. Look at the look at that. Look at that Bob light. Good job, Chief.
Is the joystick on the back of your head, or is it a camera behind your head, or?
You think they'll come out of this with they're scrapping the data that's like inverted X is not part of our data set. We have to eliminate all of this. Those people are just abomination. Put them in another pile if that doesn't work. Jan, what'd you come up with?
I think if it's an FPS, I'm normal, but if it's like a third person game, I'm inverted.
Okay.
Huh.
That's the worst I've heard yet.
Well, how see it? Because you could see your head moving around in a third person game, so you're doing the whole camera back thing.
Yeah, I just conducted a test with a tripod.
You're the Lakitu behind Mario. That's why you do that, right? I mean, that's the
people have told me that every day of my life.
Every day of your life.
That's why all of us do this. When
I have a lot of problems when they do. If it's an inverted control, if it's a first-person game or third-person game, I'll usually default to inverted. But if they ever put a reticle on the screen that slides around in the 2D space, I have to switch it because I cannot push down for the reticle to go up. So I can do it for the tilting, but then as soon as it is like a mouse on the screen, I have to switch it back. And God bless the games that make that distinction. I think a lot of games do, but sometimes they do not, which leads to problems. And
that sounds terrible. See, I play any kind of flight game in the way you would fly a plane, right? Which is inverted, and I think that makes total sense to me. Based on the vehicle I'm piloting and all that stuff, that's where the switch happens. I think that makes sense because you're up in the air and you're like, well, I'm leaning into the ground and then I am pulling back into the sky. And so that makes sense for me, but only in planes in video games or in real life, I guess, but the one time I did fly a plane once.
Was that for an event?
Yes. It was an Ace Combat event. We
did you have to sign a waiver for that?
Yes.
That's
Yeah. They just let everybody in F-16s go by themselves.
Yeah. No, they were like Italian stunt planes, and we did dog fighting over the outskirts of Las Vegas. And they had fake smoke pots on the planes that if you shot someone, the smoke pots would fire. It was cool as hell. And I didn't throw up. I was one of the few people that didn't. So take that, fuckers.
They give you a bag.
I think there was a bag, but it was a lot of people in messy flight suits getting out of those planes at the end of it, anyway, so that to me makes total sense. Like the inverted flight that's the only way I can do that. If a game doesn't allow you to invert just flight, like a Grand Theft Auto, something that's like, we got some planes in it, but it's cars too. Like I don't want to invert anything on the ground. Tank turrets, any of that sort of stuff. If that gets inverted, I can't. I just that feels bad. But planes have to be planes.
Two things. One, RIP Chuck Yeager. Two, does anybody here not invert flight controls?
I don't invert anything at all. Up is up, down is down.
That's almost more broken.
No, it's just it. If I want the plane to go up, I hit up.
Oh, that doesn't compute in my head.
That doesn't matter.
You would crash a plane, Ben.
What's so hard to understand?
Ben, I'm never counting on you to fly a plane.
Well, I doubt I'd fit behind the cockpit of any
Fair enough.
plane to begin with.
Man, okay, interesting. I can't wait to see what this study finds.
Maybe I should sign up.
That's right. We did all the data sets. Brad, was there anything in that article that said how long of a study this will be?
Let me pull it
2
back
hours.
up
We went to
here.
Reddit.
They did say they're only doing it because they can't go into their actual research lab and do real work.
That's
This isn't real work.
Okay, I'm editorializing a little bit here, but they did say it's like we needed something we could study remotely, and so we came up with this.
Jill's already started. We need to stop her from doing weird body horror experiments on herself. Earlobe and tried to grow it into a person, and
It's going to be the fly situation before too long.
Yeah, we need to stop that.
You know who has a lot of time on his hands to participate in this study?
Who?
Casey Hudson, formerly of BioWare, again.
Newly and formerly.
Casey Hudson came back to BioWare in, I believe, 2017, I want to say.
Yeah, didn't he came back, fixed Anthem?
Yeah,
and then
totally fixed Anthem. That's
then-
right.
My work here is done.
In 6 months. Just the guy's a real fixer. Yeah, he did come back and help get Anthem over the line, but do you remember how that went? And like he was the one out there giving statements on N7 Day about the Mass Effect Legendary thing, like not 3 weeks ago or a month ago or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden, here he is, quote, retiring from BioWare. Also, Mark Dara, who was the executive producer of the Dragon Age franchise, also left on the same day. So,
Are they say they're doing something, or
they both put up blog posts along the lines of like, I need to focus on some more personal work. I'm going to like Casey Hudson literally used the word retiring from BioWare, so I don't know what that means
maybe that
exactly.
just means, like, I'm definitely not coming back this time. You can make all the mess.
Maybe,
I
yeah,
will
for sure.
come back.
It's just I don't know. It's just weird to me because like the dude has been there. He was at BioWare. He says in his thing since like '98 or something. So that's like through that whole Infinity Engine era and through Mass Effect and all that stuff. And like you kind of thought like, all right, he's coming back to the like the place he thinks of as home. He's going to right the ship and like everything's going to get back to the old BioWare, right? And now he's just gone again.
Oh, BioWare does not exist.
Yeah.
It's Casey Hudson maybe.
Beyond the powers of any one person.
It's so strange because they just announced like the Mass Effect. It seems like they're just starting to kind of make their way back into good graces.
But I don't think, but also like these were people who were there during some of the bad graces as well.
Oh, sure.
And so, like it's hard to know, we have no detail here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Is there some kind of a personnel clash between what was the BioWare leadership and the rest of EA in terms of what they want to do? Did Dragon Age get announced too early in a roguish kind of way that maybe shouldn't have happened when it did? Maybe. There's just a lot of stuff like, I don't know, like what is BioWare? Does it matter what BioWare is anymore until they can, put out some games that actually right the ship? And it doesn't like the people there, they need the right people there. They don't need people there for like legacy reasons. So if they're not the right people, then hey, they should move on, or they should. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, totally.
We don't know what happened. So maybe they both said like, hey, this place is a shit show. Let's get out of here and start a new studio. You want it? Or maybe they're just doing something completely different.
Both
and
of
it
them
just was
leaving
the
on
right
the same
time
day and with statements prepared side by side going out definitely made you think like, do they have something else up their sleeve? But
well, you manage these departures,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
of course, yes.
that's not just like surprise, we're gone. That's like hey, I think in a month, like if they left of their own accord, that's like, hey, in a month I'm going to get out of here, and so is he, and who knows what's going to happen after that? Anyway, got to go. But yeah,
Bummer. I mean, it's potentially a bummer.
Yeah, like I feel no way about it. Like, is it a bummer? I don't know. Like maybe they are excited to go start a new thing, and maybe the people that are still at BioWare are like, oh, thank God. We don't know. Like I don't know anything about that studio anymore, so it could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, they're like personality conflicts aside or whatever. Just taking the games on their face stuff, I think it would be more of a bummer if during that renewed tenure something had come out that was like, this is amazing. Like I can't believe this. When Casey Hudson came back, made this new game. It's amazing. Clearly, there's a good cohesive direction here, good team leadership. But I don't think there was anything that came out under that purview that was, that spoke to what that could mean to have Casey Hudson back, or what people think Casey Hudson brings back to BioWare, or the perception of it. So.
Hey, I mean, there are hundreds of people that are identified as being part of BioWare, right? Like there's no one person operation here with this stuff. So, like they'll continue to do the things that they're going to do. And, maybe some fresh leadership is exactly what they need. Like, who knows?
Yeah, I think the only thing that was like maybe a hope in my mind was like, oh, does he maybe have some weight to throw around that gets BioWare? Like, you brought me back to do this thing. If you're not going to fund it, if you're not going to give us the ability to do this thing, why'd you even fucking bring me back? And, and to that maybe was maybe a hope without merit.
Or did he spend those points poorly? Like whatever.
Pick the wrong battles.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever he had coming back in to be able to be like, well, you brought me back in. I'm going to, did he then make some bad calls or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. Maybe one day we'll see what Dragon Age 4 looks like.
One day, do you mean like 2 days from now? Because they said they're going to show it at the Game Awards.
Oh, like the game?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yep, pretty much.
Last time they showed up at the Game Awards, it was like a piece of concept art.
Yeah, it just like like we smuggled this out of the studio. Don't tell anybody that we're putting on your award. Like it just had a vibe to it of like, maybe don't.
Let's see. Here's the site Nintendo Life put this up as a little public service announcement. I was just going to mention. Switch firmware 11 came out last week. It added actually a bunch of stuff. Like you can actually get videos and pictures off of a Switch.
In the most, have you seen that?
So there's two. You can also use a USB cable. You can actually plug the Switch into a PC with a USB cable and get it off that way. Okay. Which makes it a lot easier to swallow that other method.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Did you try it?
No, no.
What is the I saw that there's QR codes involved. I didn't quite.
You like scan 2 QR codes and download them to your phone. So it's basically like you're going to scan a QR code on the Switch once, and you're basically like I think you're joining the Wi-Fi network of the Switch from your phone and then connecting to a web server. This basically, it sounds like a really good way to hack a Switch. Is like, and then you're connecting to a web server on the Switch and it's serving you a web page with the screenshots and videos on them, and then you're downloading them from there.
Oh, Jesus,
from the company that brought you friend codes.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It is wild.
It's the craziest shit.
It's way worse than just getting the SD card out of there and sticking it in your PC.
That's Cyberpunk. It's
wild.
Yes. I feel like I'm like there's a clock somewhere that's like time until some kind of QR code exploit of point your phone at the Switch and then the Switch just blacks out and comes back up and says like, yo, you want to run RetroArch?
Sure.
Congratulations, you have unlocked Switch 2.
All the other consoles are doing it. Why not?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that update adds some actual firmware. I mean, some actual functionality to the system. But the thing the story is about, either they have started collecting eShop information from you and passing it through Google Analytics, or they have been doing that for a while and they are only now exposing the option to turn it off and actually letting you know. Nobody seems to know exactly which. Also, apparently, and it's even more telling that this does not seem to be a problem in the EU. If you have a European Switch account, this is not happening. But if you were,
or they're not, the option's not there,
right? Privacy laws are so much more stringent in the EU. That's not surprising, but. Yeah,
is it opt in or out?
Like, I believe it is opt out. My understanding is, and I need to check my Switch because I would like to turn this off. But like my understanding is, it defaults to you are sending them data.
What do you get? Did it pay you? What happened?
No,
coins or something?
Hopefully, you eventually get a better fucking eShop. Like, why would you throw Google Analytics on something that is basically a web page? Because the eShop is basically a web page.
I bet so they can surface what's selling hot and maybe not.
They can do that anyway. That's not. You don't need GA for that. Like this is you pull this in because you want to look at like, okay, what are people doing? Where are people bouncing out of the eShop? What's part of the process is broken? Like the same way a website like this one would.
Okay, so Jeff, you probably know the answer to this. Like, is Google Analytics in this situation just a B2B thing of? Google is the conduit that Nintendo is taking this data through and doing something with it. It's not Because like people hear the word Google and just immediately like their privacy hackles go up, right? But like it's not.
I mean, it could be anything. Like I don't want to say one way or the other, but like if you own a website out there, if you got a .com domain and you want to put Google Analytics on it, you can do it.
Right. But it's not necessarily Google taking the data and doing something with it, is what I'm saying. Right.
Well, then you're getting into, is Google taking all of the data it's getting ever and doing something with it? And I have to imagine the answer is absolutely. But
do they say it is completely anonymous data, or does it say it is,
what's anonymous?
The entirety of the setting is manage your preferences about Nintendo's collection of your data through Google Analytics. Share and don't share.
Because at some point they could be tailoring a page for you, right? Like if they know that you are buying the Pokemon stuff, they know to feed you the Pokemon stuff, on the front page on your Switch.
It could be just that for sure.
That's something they could do. I don't think you need Google Analytics for that. But what I do think is that the eShop fucking sucks. And I think that someone said, hey, we need some data on how people use the eShop so that I can go to Japan and make a case of like, let me rebuild the eShop in a way that isn't dog shit. And so we can actually surface games instead of having to have all these developers put all their games like, oh, this is a $40 game and it's always on 90% sale because that's how it surfaces at the top of this list. Like the eShop is busted. Like they need to do more. So my hope is that this is someone starting to win an argument about like, we need to collect some data on how the eShop is being used because it is poor and we need to make it better. And I think that would be a valid use for Google Analytics in this case. From what I know of our use of Google Analytics over the years, we don't currently, I don't think, but back at Whiskey, we were certainly using it. And yeah, I think there are plenty of benign uses for it. And the idea of just like, oh, they want to collect personalized data or anonymous data or whatever to build a recommendation engine or whatever, I don't think they need Google Analytics for that. That's something that they would be doing. That would be some other package they would probably work with. To collect that data, and there are different ways to do that I don't think you would use analytics to do it, or not Google Analytics anyway. But you could. I think you could. Yeah, you could, because it is just data. It's just where do you filter that data into, and what do you do with it? Like sure, right. Like, but I don't know if recommendation engine is the thing you would build with that. I think it's more like you're going to come away with that with like a heat map, or you're going to come away with something going like, hey, no one clicks on these units, people click on this unit, people, when this gets promoted here, it gets this type of click through, and the same sort of stuff any web page on the internet is doing. But 10 like times you said, over. So it just depends what inputs you're giving it, right? Like what you're tracking, and then you look at in Armature if it makes sense, at some point to be like, what does this number mean, and be like, oh, that's I didn't tag it correctly. So I think you could do that. You could also hire experienced UI and UX designers to start with as well. Now you're being crazy. who know how to navigate an experience that doesn't feel like you're building this for your first time. But yeah, I think a data collection can be a sticky wicket. Sure. There are bad actors in that realm. There are people who are using it to make better experiences. I think it's not clear sometimes. And you can't run uBlock on your Switch. Yeah. So you guys get the QR code. Right. Get it on there.
Any of you guys blanket data collection turner offers? Like, is anybody just staunchly like, nope, every time?
I generally, given the option, I will not send the data. I understand that there are cases where that data really helps in troubleshooting, but I generally turn it off. I'm auto-reporting errors on a PlayStation 5 because there were a lot of them, and I got tired of the pop-up. I get it. Yeah, no, I don't know. It depends on the service, the product and/or service about that stuff.
Sure. In other news, they put the Kratos in the Fortnite. They put the Kratos into Fortnite.
Do this for the Christmas.
Dances. Yeah.
Does he yell at all the other avatar? Yeah, as your kids. You can make the shot, boy.
Yes, he yells out boy while doing the Running Man.
Where are we dropping boy?
Yes. Indeed. Is this the first Sony promotion?
There's been a lot of PlayStation Plus, like here's a blue glider or whatever.
Right, but like a named character, like a big IP.
As a skin,
I think it is.
Yeah. But I think that's I don't know if this is, I saw some folks saying that Master Chief had also leaked That basically, like, I think the Fortnite, if I understand correctly, the Fortnite story has gotten to a point where it is about to become even more of a massive crossover, not just the Marvel shit.
Yeah.
And so this seems like you could expect a lot of this.
Interesting.
And I guess like this is not like a lot of the PlayStation Plus exclusive stuff that they do for whether it's Call of Duty or something doesn't show up on other platforms because it's exclusive. But I think Kratos shows up everywhere you can Kratos.
Yes, he
everywhere
shows
you
up
can
on
play,
Xbox.
right? Yeah.
Kratos
So
everywhere.
If I were Sony, that's what I'd want, right? You want to show Kratos to the
dude,
non-stuff?
I think it depends on which suit you ask, right? There's going to be some guys like, no, if you want to see Kratos, you need a PlayStation.
Right.
Kratos is ours. It doesn't go on that fucking thing. Like, there's, I think I'm
Sure,
with you where I would go like, I want Kratos everywhere so that people know like I need to get a PlayStation because I like this guy with the beard. But I bet there are plenty of other people who
also it's a sign of our clout and prestige that we can put our character on somebody else's console.
Can you buy it anywhere? And can you buy it outside of the Sony?
People in chat are saying yes, you can buy Kratos anywhere.
Okay, so you can buy it from the. Okay, I mean, listen, they probably are licensing money somewhere. Like the more people buy it, I assume.
Yeah,
I don't. Fortnite, weird thing. I have no idea how their business model works.
It is
so just thing. Dollars pour in, and they just go, and then point at targets and go, Apple, you guys, we're fighting now.
I didn't realize they had license to actually use these guest characters in storytelling in that thing. That's kind of wild.
But I think that's the story where they're at now with all this like 0 point stuff. It's going to be like basically they looked at Quake 3 and said, let's do that, but with licensed characters.
Galactus ate Fortnite. That was like that. Like they're just straight up.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, there was a big old the big event was Galactus showing up and people having to do this like weird little mini game to fight him off as he tried to eat Fortnite.
Oh man, I should play Fortnite.
What happened to Travis Scott though? Is he okay? Is he Galactus?
I think he's too busy working for PlayStation now, right?
PlayStation and McDonald's.
He's in so many meetings now.
He's the Herald. He's the Silver Serpent. If you see Travis Scott, the heads up, it's coming.
Yeah,
you should see his Lotus Notes calendar. He's just in meetings all day long. Let's see. Microsoft apparently is starting to flip Quick Resume back on for a bunch of Series X/S games.
Oh, I forgot they disabled that.
Major Nelson said this on a podcast. Apparently, we've re-enabled Quick Resume for more than 20 Series X and S optimized games, including Gears 5, Yakuza, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So.
Yeah,
on your next gen console watch, that stuff's starting to come back online.
I feel like I want a list of like what games don't work at this point.
Yeah, I'm still kind of surprised they were not.
The idea that it's this ambiguous thing is a little weird.
Yeah, especially for us, like trying to cover that thing pre-release and not knowing what did and did not work. But
the idea that it did, was enabled up until like 3 days before launch, and then suddenly wasn't. Like I feel like that's where the confusion came in. But
although I mean, now that I think about it, he says over 20 optimized games, like that's most of them, right?
Yeah,
like
I think so.
They launched with like 30, so
yeah,
they're getting there.
Like Immortals was working with it at launch, I think, and so yeah. Yep.
Let's see here. There's a new demo reel of some PS5 games that came out that featured that Square project property. I don't know what to call it because it doesn't have a real name yet. Project Athia. If you remember that.
Yes,
I do. That included some language on it that says that thing is exclusive for at least 24 months to PS5. It will also be out on PC, but console-wise, 2 years minimum for exclusivity, which kind of seems like a long time.
Yeah, it does seem like a long time.
Like most console exclusives are at most like 12 months. Half the time it's more like 6 months or even a month.
Right.
Which kind of raises some questions about what that thing is.
Yeah.
Like
is it a services game?
That's exactly what I thought when I saw this. Was like, okay, that has to be a live game, right? It's from Luminous Productions, which I guess is the team that did Final Fantasy 15. So it's kind of their next thing. But yeah, as soon as I saw like at least 2 years, like that sounds like an option to renew the exclusivity. Like that's got to be some kind of live thing, right?
I guess so. Yeah. Is this the thing that Gary Whitta is working on?
I believe that is the case.
Yeah.
I believe he has done writing and world building stuff for this. I think he tweeted about it back when they first revealed it. But
cool.
I'm gonna get on his Animal Crossing thing, and I'm gonna blow this thing up.
That's right. That's right. Go blow up a spot. Microsoft bought Bethesda. Like, it seems like we're getting back into exclusivity wars again to some degree. Like, the next big Square Enix property being, and they've got Final Fantasy 16 as well, right? Like, they were just kind of back to Square is a PlayStation company again.
Welcome home, Square.
But that's always been, Sony, like PlayStation has always received kind of de facto exclusives in some sense because Japanese developers weren't interested in the Xbox.
Right.
So even, like I don't think there was an exclusive for Nier out of the gate, where Nier Automata out of the gate, that was more just like, I don't know, we're putting it on PlayStation because that's what people got. And then it didn't come to Xbox till way later. If I remember right, I could be wrong. Maybe that was some business deal too, but I guess, that's going to heat up now. And, you do hear that Microsoft seems to care about Japan more this time around, which is always how the start of a generation goes. A lot of stories go around about how much Microsoft cares about Japan. And then what comes of it is them getting a Final Fantasy game 4 years after it came out on PlayStation. And you're like, all right, cool.
Right. Hey, they got the smaller console this time. It's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, hey. I'd be interested to see them actually. I'd be interested to see that really change this generation. To see Microsoft actually, like, get some games out of Japan, or get some mind share, in a way that doesn't. It's not always a business deal. It's like, hey, we got to shake down Tecmo and pay them to give us the Dead or Alive,
right?
Like to get to a point where like that console is viable in more territories, and so developers are like, no, we're putting it out on Xbox because we care about all these platforms. Sure. Like, that's just a healthier place for everyone to be, I think. But,
I mean,
or maybe they just buy some studios.
Sure. Yeah, they could buy a few more.
That could very well happen. I mean, I kind of miss that early 360 era when it was like Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey and stuff like that coming out of there. It's like none of those games. I mean, granted, they're
none of those games.
Yes. I mean, granted, yes. Also, there are the Blinkses of the world as well that came out of that stuff. But like, it was nice to see them trying. Like, it's nice to see Microsoft going to Japan and inking some deals and getting some games made, even if none of them quite did it.
But it's coming to PC as well?
Yeah, it will be on PC. So,
all right.
You should be good.
Thanks. Get my specs up. Jeez.
That's right. Let's see. This news was going around last week in the movie world about Warner Brothers committing its entire 2021 slate to streaming on HBO Max on day one, which in and of itself is insane.
Yeah.
But it was also a good occasion to remind me that there's a new Mortal Kombat movie coming out next year.
Yeah.
And it will be part of that. You will be able to stream the new major motion picture Mortal Kombat.
Is it just Mortal Kombat?
Yeah. The one of the cast members posted the logo, which looks a whole lot like every other MK logo I have ever seen.
It's a sick dragon amulet.
That's a pretty good, if familiar looking dragon. He captioned it "Game Changer 2021."
When is it coming out?
2021. I don't think they've narrowed it down.
No, I don't think it has a date yet.
I need to know when to start. Release the Snyder cut.
That's right.
Release the Goro cut.
Good editor.
I followed up on this after I was reminded it existed and did not recognize a single name in the cast list. So
the director has one credit. It's a video short. What are the odds that
Sometimes you need a fresh face?
Yeah,
this might be one of the few instances where a video game plot is better than any adaptation of it. Like, I think that there's a non-zero chance that the story of Mortal Kombat 11 is like 10 times as good as this movie.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, given the track record of Mortal Kombat fiction, like outside of the game, where you get the cartoon and that fucking live action series.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
And all then of course the movies, like the first movie was all right.
Yeah, it's all right. First movie's decent. It's totally fine.
First movie is goofy. I'll say goofily faithful, right? Like it tries to hit those marks. Like, what would this look like in real life? And like, oh yeah, I guess that would.
The movie's kind of reveling in its cheese.
Second movie, absolute dog shit. One of the worst video game movies ever.
Oh.
Okay. Here are the announced characters so far: Liu Kang, Bi-Han / Sub-Zero, which I feel like if they're using Sub-Zero's real name in the cast list, there's they're going deep on the lore. Raiden, Sonya, Jax, Kano, Shang Tsung, Scorpion, Kung Lao, Melina, and Nitara,
Huh.
who I had to look up.
Nitara?
Apparently, is from Deadly Alliance and is
Yeah.
she's described as a bat-winged vampiress.
I was gonna say she's like a vampire lady, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm liking her look.
So
Everyone in this movie is hot.
Do we know if this is a start from scratch or where are we?
I've seen people call it a reboot. So,
She's like if Rouge the Bat was a lady.
There you go.
are any of these actors also trained martial artists?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
really?
One was in Sub-Zero was in the raid.
Okay.
So.
The person
Yeah.
that plays Liu Kang was the Black Power Ranger in the new Power Rangers movie.
Okay.
He was really good.
All
How many
right.
of them are Power Rangers? Okay, good.
Only one
That's
of them so far.
But yeah, if they just make a movie with some kick-ass fights with those characters, and then the story is there's a tournament. And between fights, the real fights happen. You know, I was
Right.
like, wait, sure, fine.
That's just the
pretty
first
much what
movie,
you
right?
gotta do.
Like,
Yeah, I would like to see a new Mortal Kombat movie with like good effects. You know, now the
Yeah.
special effects are good and cheap, as opposed to the clownish CG and that.
Wow, clownish.
oh, it's so bad.
Dude.
It's some of the worst.
Like the
90s
fucking the
CG.
scorpion, the
The
scorpion
scorpion.
harpoon coming. Like you can see it like swimming around in his hand
Peaks open. It's like, man, that's real. That's
Yeah,
what would
that's-
happen.
because
Yeah.
they weren't able to motion track it.
What are the odds you think Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa makes a cameo?
Man, that would be
0.
Oh, really? Shang Tsung, he's a shapeshifter, right?
true.
Do you think they use Ed Boon's "Get Over Here" on top of Scorpion when he does the move? And does he
Yes.
get? Does he get?
Because he did it in the movie.
Does he then get like screen actors?
Yeah, does Ed Boon have a SAG card?
Yeah, does he have to be in SAG to have the one line?
Huh.
Or how many lines does it take? I know there's like a minimum, right? Like you got a certain amount of speaking lines, so you're not just an extra.
Right.
We can only have to get over here 3 times, otherwise we got to pay Ed Boon a lot of money.
Yeah. I'm sure.
I mean,
I'm sure Ed does okay already.
He'll pass.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't. I mean, they did that in the first. It was in the first movie they used it, right?
Yes,
Think so.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, because he says it in the first movie.
totally
Yeah.
He's also in Mortal Kombat Legacy as Johnny Cage. What? Oh, he did the Smash TV MC voice? I'm looking at Ed Boon's IMDb and it says he was the MC of Smash TV.
Big money, big prizes.
I know he's the in Total Carnage. He's the like Saddam Hussein stand-in. Like we were making baby milk. Like I'm pretty sure that's him.
He's the Black Knight, right? And
No,
Black
he's
Knight.
Rudy. No, he's not. He's not the Black Knight. That's the voice of Shao Kahn in the Mortal Kombat games. I think was also Black Knight.
Oh.
He also voiced Scorpion in an episode of Drawn Together. Oh God!
He voiced a penguin in an episode of Time Trotters.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Do you think he's laying down a new "Get Over Here" for every game?
Yes.
Like every time out, he's doing new reads.
Between
Real-
games, he's just like, "Get over here." No,
I think
that's not
every
it,
day
damn
they're
it.
doing audio. They get one more take from him. And he's like, "No, that's not the one. That's not the one."
Get
I-
over
I'm
here.
done.
Fuck. No,
I
it's
hope
not.
it's like a super. I hope this is very. I don't know Ed Boon's personal life, but I hope he comes in with a scarf and tea, and everybody's quiet in the silent room, and he walks in late. It's 20 minutes late. He's on a cell phone. He's like, "I gotta do the fucking thing. Get over here. Fucking print it. I'm out." Anyway,
No, we need you for a come here.
just
Call my
slams the
agent.
door. That's right. Slams the door.
I'm
I
pretty.
don't care. I don't care if they can't get the terracotta marble in there. You put it in there. You got a Raiden old Italian ruin. You put it in there.
Maybe a lesser known fact. He also did the Raiden torpedo voiceover, which they don't do anymore.
Superman,
They
the Bubble A.
they quietly at some point retired the Raiden Superman voice line.
Villain. You know, you age out of stuff. You just can't.
That's
you
right.
do
You know,
it.
vocal cords age poorly.
That's right.
I get it. Speaking of someone who's not aging poorly.
Carrie Hoskins.
Oh, no. I was
Solid
I
Snake.
was thinking Oscar Isaac is aging
okay.
pretty well.
There we
but Oscar Isaac supposedly going to play Solid Snake.
Great choice.
Supposedly, a Metal Gear Solid movie is happening. Supposedly.
I was gonna say
Still.
this is never coming out like that Uncharted movie, but then we saw like a first look at that Uncharted movie.
They're shooting the Uncharted movie, so that will happen. But this, I don't know.
Yeah, cut out all the gameplay.
Like, you know, there's
And,
supposedly also a BioShock movie still in production. Like, I don't know, man. I could see it.
the casting, you mean?
Like, I don't know what it
Yes,
says. I don't know what it
gray
says
hair.
about like the Oscar Isaac's choice of roles. That when I heard this, the first thing I thought was like, he's kind of a ham for this role, isn't he? But like, I don't. He's not.
So is Solid
You know,
Snake.
like whatever. I just
Come on.
for some reason my first reaction is that Oscar Isaac is like a comedic actor these days, and I'm not sure why.
It's
I
goofy.
have no idea who this dude is, other than I looked at him and said, like, yeah, you put a bandana on that guy, he could do it.
Yeah,
He's really good in Ex Machina as
Yes,
like a
yes,
non-comedic.
he is very good in that movie. Yes,
So yeah, I only knew him for Ex Machina and Star Wars. And
I think it's
looked
just-
at
I think it's too much Star Wars. I think that's what did it.
on his IMDb page, he was Fart Man from Lenny the Wonder Dog.
I swear I know him.
Then he came into the recording, and that's like the first thing he said to us. He's like, "Did you guys know he was Fart Man?"
You guys seen Lenny the Wonder Dog with
Michael Winslow. Yeah, he's in that. Yeah.
Lenny the Wonder Dog? Yeah, he's a Fart Man. Which I was like, that's probably. I want to watch a clip of that. That's probably a fun thing to watch to see why you're called Fart Man in this.
And when you said that at first, I was like, "Oh, the Howard Stern thing." I was like, "Oh, that was Butt Man, right?" That's
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Brad, are you thinking Oscar Isaac might be a comedy actor because he kind of looks like Jake Johnson?
I don't know who Jake Johnson is.
no Butt Man's a porn thing. Howard Stern was Fart Man.
Yeah.
oh, this is
Where's
this is
Booger Man fit
Wait, what?
into all of this?
is that what they call it?
Dueling Fartman. Yeah, it's like a dueling banjos, but with fart noises. That's the MIDI That's my favorite MIDI of the MIDI of the month club.
It's what they used on the Canyon.mid and Dueling Banjos Fartman.mid. So
Mhm.
when come with what you think you do a news story for Metal Gear, like a side tale, or
You
do
do
I
that
don't
first
know.
game, or I mean, not the
Thunder
first
Liberty.
game, but
You
And
do
do the-
something.
Fox Die story? Is that the one you tell?
No, you do an anime. Like you do 3 seasons of anime, and then with all the Fox stuff, like that's the ideal way to tell. If you're not going to do a video game, the ideal way to tell the Metal Gear story is straight up anime.
yeah, but now they can do like they can turn this into a movie series franchise, with like
None of
several
those
movies and
stories are
spin-offs
short
and shit.
enough. Like I think that like adapting any of the like start to finish like arcs of Metal Gear into a 90-minute, 2-hour, 90-minute, 89, 88-minute. I feel like you're not doing it. You're doing it a disservice by trimming it down to that. Like,
But think of all the things you can cut out where you're like running around the base and shit, and you can have that be in there as like a 2-minute thing where it's like, I gotta go backtrack and get this key card warm.
but then, yes, but then that story is what? It's like a string of boss fights. So you're just making.
Yeah.
Well, you got the DARPA chief
I've watched worse movies.
on the toilet, right? You got that. He's in the, and then you got the that's Meryl. I can tell by her butt. That's probably in there, right?
You got
And then
Psycho Mantis saying you got to look at the back of the Blu-ray case.
I can see you watched Marvel's Avengers. And then you got
the projector that points at the back of the theater. So at that point, you turn around and go, "Oh, it's a codec. Oh, okay."
you got a bunch of people having to actors having to being paid to say lolly loo and enfants terrible, which is
I think they lose all of that wacky shit, and they're just making generic espionage. Like, they're making like The Rock. Like in terms of like, hey, here's a location that has to be infiltrated and skulked around.
Yeah.
Like it's like that style of
Exactly,
film.
is that casting up on IMDb or is
No, this was like was it Deadline? I want to say reported this, and it was like a source's report that he is being considered type thing. It's not official.
I would say the movie version of this has to have is it Frank? My Metal Gear. Who's the Cyber Ninja? It's his name is like his buddy, right? Who was in Frank or something.
Gray Fox.
Gray Fox.
Gray Fox, right? And then they were they have to have that. That's probably a storyline that makes it. That feels very Hollywood. Like, oh 25 years ago, and then comes back, and the daughter, because the daughter's Naomi, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Naomi, well, she's the doctor.
Yeah, but isn't it Gray Fox's daughter?
Like
No.
adopted? It's like an adopted daughter type situation or something. I forget.
That I feel like that plays at all.
Oh yeah, you put a cyber ninja in it because that's a cool thing for a trailer.
And have a flashback to his buddy, slow motion drinking buddy. They did it in Street Fighter. It'll work here.
Yes, that's the movie making 101. They did it in Street Fighter. It will work here.
That's right. They've got this figured out.
I want Gary Oldman as Revolver Ocelot.
Okay, that's some good casting. Don't forget, there's like 7 Revolver Ocelots.
No, right. I'm thinking of like old Revolver Ocelot.
Okay,
but before he's inside of.
Before he's gone full anime.
Before he's inside of Liquid Snake.
Who is able to deliver a line about this arm with the appropriate gravitas?
Who can say brother the best?
Nobody is the answer.
I think
who's like a blonde, buff guy? I guess Chris Hemsworth as Liquid Snake.
Yeah, one of the Chris's will be fine. Whatever.
Owen Wilson.
Wow.
I don't have it in front of me, but somebody dug up some old interview footage of Oscar Isaac floating the idea that he plays Solid Snake. So apparently he knows what he's getting into.
Okay, so you got to see that stuff. That's how it works nowadays.
Yeah.
Now video games. All they want is somebody who is like, they can market it and be like, he's played it, he loves it, he loves it.
Yeah.
Supposedly that's how Henry Cavill got the role in The Witcher. Also, was just talking about it.
And now he's like building gamer PCs on videos. So.
Is he?
We're gonna.
Yeah, but did he stream Danganronpa? I don't think so.
But he's gonna play Danganronpa.
Nick Cage. Someone said it in the chat. I'm 100%
Liquid
for that.
Snake. Wow,
Yeah.
yeah, that's inspired.
No,
also,
what about
Dave
Psycho
Malaska hit
Mantis,
me with
though? What-
Sawyer from Lost, which I think is another really good choice.
What if you had Nicolas Cage doing a Psycho Mantis? What if he could be a weird motherfucker.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage at the end. That's what you need. Nicolas Cage in like full makeup as the end, laying down for. I slept for 27 hours to get it.
If you pause the DVD for fucking 12 hours.
Cage disappears from the movie.
Who's the guy? Who's the like guy with the birds and the tank?
Vulcan Raven.
Vulcan.
Raven.
I think The Rock is my choice right there.
Okay.
It's beneath him.
I'm sure it is, but like if we're dreamcasting here,
Yeah.
You get a wrestler.
Oh, wait, Metal Gear Solid's coming out of the Dreamcast?
Yeah.
Like,
it's
Gleam talk over here.
Yeah.
like a Batista or something.
Oh no, that should be Dave Bautista.
Yeah, like go get a wrestler that is like just huge.
Go get a wrestler.
Somebody go get me a big wrestler. Who wants to break into the movie biz? Who wants to start with their wrestler name and then 5 years from now use their real name in credits? Give me that person.
Miz. It's Vulcan
Please,
Raven.
The Miz is already a Hollywood star, Jason.
That's right. He's Mr.
own
USA Network.
Yeah.
All right, last story. As you know, we always try to save the biggest and most important stories for last year. There's been this ongoing legal back and forth between Twin Galaxies and one Billy Mitchell that we've talked about off and on. Twin Galaxies is on the attack now. They filed a new complaint in this back and forth. And I've got this story from Ars Technica here that pulled some good quotes out of this thing that I'm just going to read.
Like it's like it's gone from like it's gone too long where now it's just sad, right? It's just like,
Well, this is the countersuit. So this is like, hey, as part of like Twin Galaxies defending itself from the lawsuit that Billy Mitchell tried to put on them, they're like, all right, well, let's go,
dude. Yeah, like this really has the feel of gloves coming off, and it's just like, fuck this guy. Like
this is like Jace Hall going like this and being like.
Some of the quotes that Ars pulled out of this complaint accuses Billy Mitchell and Walter Day, the old guy in the ref outfit from Twin Galaxies that everybody knows from that documentary, of a, quote, decades-long pattern of abuse, impropriety, nepotism, and fraud, end quote, intended to falsely, quote, manufacture a persona for Billy Mitchell as the greatest video game player of all time.
And I think it's important to note, because I didn't realize it, or I didn't remember it when reading this story earlier, that so Twin Galaxies was sold, or the was sold off, and then the suit is saying that basically you've ruined the credibility of this thing we bought. You have ruined it.
That's the countersuit, yeah. Because the initial suit was like Twin Galaxies banned Billy Mitchell. They looked at his Donkey Kong footage and said this doesn't look like it came from a real Donkey Kong board. Which I looked that stuff over, and people that are more knowledgeable than me look like, oh, the way it draws to screen does not seem like the thing an actual Donkey Kong board does, and that's part of what they used to disqualify him completely. And now this countersuit, is exactly that. It's like, hey, you sold us this thing.
Yeah.
After doing that, like you built this mountain on cheats and lies, is what they are alleging in their lawsuit. And then sold it to us. We got ripped off. So
and you guys were a part of it. You were conspiring together.
Collusion.
I mean, some of the accusations in this are like genuinely kind of explosive. Like most of their accusations of fraud have centered around that more recent Donkey Kong stuff with the tapes that he submitted. But there's suggestion in here that Billy Mitchell was not, in fact, the first person to play the perfect Pac-Man game in 1999.
Yeah,
and that they went out of their way, that he and Walter Day went out of their way to suppress evidence that other players have achieved a perfect Pac-Man run before him.
Man,
which is like kind of like in all seriousness, like that perfect Pac-Man game is like central to the Billy Mitchell legend, right?
Yeah.
And this is the part I think that it starts getting like, oh boy, this is getting sad to watch. Like to watch the lengths and the that these two went to for like protecting and like making a racket out of it, and like if these allegations are true. But
I mean, their whole meal ticket was based on Billy Mitchell being Billy Mitchell,
right?
The Billy Mitchell that they made him into. And so I get on some level why you're like, well, we're in it now. We've got to keep going.
He's our meal ticket on this thing. Yeah. It's I hope the people who are wrong just I hope it becomes righted, and the people who bought if these allegations are true. I mean, but it's more funky stuff.
I'm saddened that when AEW, the wrestling company, went to do like a loose video game tie-in, that they went and got Billy Mitchell and put him on television. Like they should have done better.
I know.
Yeah.
He's got that American flag tie though.
If somebody isn't out there making a King of Kong 2 about all of this, then I'm going to be very upset.
Yeah,
Fall of Kong.
I think in the lawsuit, right, or at least one of the quotes from the lawsuit is something like, "This whole thing is about records that imputable records, and you messed it up, so you owe us the money for it." And they obviously deny it, right? They're saying this is not true.
I don't know that that's necessarily. I don't know that they've necessarily responded to Twin Galaxies countersuit just yet. Looking at this, but
I mean, they do say in here that essentially this countersuit is all because he filed suit claiming defamation in the first place. Like,
right.
If he were not suing them, then potentially none of this would actually be
get thrown out, right? That's why they want to do with it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a real mess.
Yeah,
it's a real mess. But I hope it gets righted. I've certainly heard. I don't necessarily run in these circles myself. I'm a circle or two out of it, but the idea that Walter Day is not necessarily on the level. This is not the first time I've read something along those lines, for sure. And of course, Billy Mitchell is always, the notion that he was not the first person to do the Pac-Man stuff. That is not new news. That is like
this our story mentions that it's been rumored in the community for quite some time, but having it appear as allegations in a lawsuit is quite a bit different.
Quite a different, like a real escalation here. So let's see it.
Yeah,
let's see how it goes. I'm very curious.
I mean, that documentary paints Billy Mitchell as a heel. Like, it's very easy to believe that he is a sleaze, but like they really kind of present Walter Day as like a above board, like,
like some sort of impartial referee.
Right. Like, it's kind of a bummer to see that he was potentially just in on all this.
Totally.
He's wearing the ref outfit, man.
Right.
I mean, it's just, maybe he's just on break from the Foot Locker. Like, who knows?
I had one of those at the roller rink.
What are you trying to say about Foot Locker employees, Jeff?
I'm saying that, like, they have not always guided me in the best way when it comes to finding a shoe.
That's right.
So
last time
tell
I
me
went
that they
to-
would also lie about Pac-Man, I would believe it.
Foot Locker knows a lot about sneaks, Ben.
Mhm.
The last time I went to a Foot Locker, I said, "Can you just bring out everything that you have in store that is a size 15?" And the guy went in the back, and 30 seconds later came out with 5 boxes of shoes.
It blew the dust off of them. And said, all right, some of these will match. Oh boy,
Yeah.
He has his hot sauce, Billy Mitchell. I assume.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like a, it's like a,
I assume
and
so.
I think it's like a
If you're
family-
following at home with
family
your Billy
business.
Mitchell bingo card, you have just hit a bingo with the hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Yes. He inherited that business, is my understanding. That was not
Okay.
that was not even his. Yeah, it's a real sleaze bag.
Allegedly.
Yes. So they say. All right, that's all I got for news this week.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. Ben, why don't you take us home with a handful of those emails before we get out of here?
They're
Can
called
we take a little break?
Yeah, okay,
here,
we can take a
or
quick
maybe
break.
you just get the setup going, and I'll just take a quick break.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do,
Okay,
that's
sure.
fine too.
All right. Well, yeah. I'm just gonna. Oh God, what do we do?
I've rolled the music
Jeff's
already
gone.
in my head.
That's right.
I don't know what to do.
B-mails.
Okay. Well, I can't read my first
B-mails.
email,
Uh-oh.
so let me just pull up something else. All right, everyone. We have a B-mail here. This is from Daniel in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Hey, fellas, after last week's Bombcast, it was brought up that for Brad and Jeff, Double Dragon was a game best for unsanitary places like bowling alleys and pizza places. This led me to remembering the small-scale arcade selections at my local skating rink that had old carpet everywhere except the rink itself. So let me ask y'all, in a hell scenario, you have been tasked with putting your best 6 dirty arcade machines at a bowling alley that is about to be demolished. I don't know why that's there. What are the 6 dirtiest arcade machines you can think of for this bowling alley?
Oh man,
Daniel.
Dirty.
Dirty.
Like for me, when I
DDR
close my
machine.
eyes,
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be completely old, right? Like
Which one?
A DDR is just like drenched in sweat,
yeah,
right?
That's
There's got to
good.
be a thick layer.
A lot of feet juice on there.
Yeah.
I picture,
Hmm.
I don't know why, but the first one that came to my mind was like an original Street Fighter 2 cabinet
Yeah, I can
with
see it.
just like the marquee art peeling off. All the little special command stuff is unreadable.
Jeff, we're talking about
Okay.
filthy arcade machines appropriate for a bowling alley.
I got that NBA Jam cabinet in the garage. You want to buy it for the bowling alley?
I feel like I mean, Akari Warriors is
Okay.
is a good dirty machine. It's like,
Sure.
rotate that stick a lot.
Mhm.
You know, 48 way, 47 ways.
Well, it's just a rotator. It doesn't. It's an 8-way stick that just there's a 4 that just rotates at the top. Yeah, just rotates.
These guys don't even wear shirts.
No.
One of those motorcycle racing games because you got to straddle that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't watch
Oh.
the pants.
Mhm.
All right.
That could be true.
Like
I
the
mean,
back-
they're sweating after playing DDR. They get on the motorcycle machine.
One of those.
or they lean against the Cruising USA cabinet between DDR runs and filth that thing up.
the arm wrestling machines.
Ooh.
We got
Oh.
That's not bad.
on one of those things.
What's the dirtiest pinball table?
The bride of Pinbot?
Bride of Pinbot. It's filthy.
Have you ever seen that thing? That's
That or Xenon.
I'm thinking T2 is a good, that gun gets
Oh, that's-
real grimy.
Actually,
put back in your pants.
Turbo Man had a good suggestion in the chat. If we're going to do a light gun game, it probably needs to be Revolution X.
that's pretty dirty.
Revolution X. Because your face is like by it too. You're breathing all over it, and you got your hand juice. Ugh.
Is that sub game where you put your eyes on the periscope thing?
Mm.
Right?
Oh
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's probably
like an old VR. It's like how how some arcades had the like really shitty VR thing. You could
down.
pay $8 to like run around a Quake level.
Yeah.
This is making me upset. So I'm gonna read the next email. This is called Double XP and Parenting. I'm glad I have the official consortium of Giant Bomb Dads here to answer this question. Hey, gang. While making the grocery list for the week, my son said he wouldn't mind nacho cheese Doritos with lunch, but he prefers Cool Ranch. When I got to the store, they had both. but only the nacho cheese kind had special Black Ops double XP branding on them. I love my son and his sister with all my heart, but I bought the nacho cheese and told him they were out of Cool Ranch.
What?
Am I a bad dad? My son is 8. Thanks, Ryan from Atlanta.
He doesn't know any better.
Just buy both and eat the ones yourself. Just buy the Cool Ranch ones and then keep the nacho cheese ones as dad's. What are you doing?
He's getting double XP on a budget.
Then buy 2 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, times are tough, but a bag of Doritos is what, $3.50? Like you gotta make sacrifices as a parent, and this is one of them. You gotta buy that Cool Ranch, and you gotta get that nacho cheese, and you get a whole bag of Doritos to yourself.
Yeah,
it's all around. I don't see a problem here.
We have
That
one.
kid's gonna be fine. He likes the nacho cheese Doritos. Maybe the dad doesn't like the Doritos.
Neither do the kids. Somebody's got to take.
Apparently,
The child said it was their second choice, though.
Nah, listen. You dump it in the garbage and cash the thing. You just paid $3.50 for double XP.
maybe you gotta you gotta get the kids used to the concept of compromise early.
That's right.
And this way, everyone gets something they want. Sort of.
Except for the family.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tell
counting the chips that go out too.
Tell the kid he wants to start contributing to his room and board. He can start making demands about the type of Doritos that are purchased.
That's right.
I'm holding your allowance back. These Doritos came out of your allowance.
Cool Ranch is only if you get a 3.5 GPA. You know that.
It's only if you get a 3.5 KD when you're playing Call of Duty.
I think the real problem is that you let your child get to age 8 and still like Cool Ranch Doritos, that you didn't do a better job of being like, no, those are the bad ones.
what?
Cool American is the best flavor.
Yeah.
Cool Ranch is for life.
Oh, man. These choices.
Next B-mail comes all the way from Indonesia. Samuel writes in and asks, if you were a Rhythm Heaven minigame, what would you be doing in it? I think mine would be you're walking down a series of doors and you have to like duck under them to the beat or else you tonk your head.
Mm.
Mine would be plugging in a USB cable and you got to get it right on the first try.
Oh.
Like they hand it to you and you either plug or you flip and plug.
You either flip it or it just goes straight. It's 50-50 chance.
I would air juggle. You got to jump and then time to the beat.
Nice.
Pouring coffee.
Pouring coffee.
Yeah, I think mine's like chasing after a baby and occasionally having to pick her up to stop her from touching things she shouldn't touch, and then spinning around to set her down, and then she just tries to get right back to it over again. Like, nope, like that.
Brad?
I don't know. I got nothing good. Clicking a mouse, trying to aim at somebody's head. I don't know.
Okay.
Sure.
It's like a Dota going by, and you got to get your clicks per minute up,
Yes.
right?
I'm trying to think of something Dota related, but it's too high concept. Gotta time the black hole exactly when they're all clumped up right next to each other.
All right, we got a 1-2 shot of Mario Cinema emails. First one, Chandler. Is that Chandler? Chandler in Los Angeles.
Friends, how have you not?
I'm a Seinfeld guy. Kramer from Los Angeles writes in, if there was an Into the Mario-verse movie a la Spider-Verse, what versions of Mario would you want to show up and who would voice them?
Captain Lou Albano.
Okay,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Voiced by Captain Alabama.
The Mario Hotel Mario.
yes, Concierge Mario, Typist Mario.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Dr. Mario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Referee Mario
Oh, from Punch Out.
from Punch Out.
Who would voice Referee Mario?
Who just go?
Mills Lane.
Who's the I guess Bowser, but would there be like multiple Bowsers showing up? Who do multiple Marios have to team up? Because one Mario can take down one Bowser, but who's a big enough threat that you need multiple Marios?
The Bowsers of the multiverse got together and built a Voltron like Bowser mech.
Okay.
And it looks like Charles Martinet.
Yeah.
Another one, real quick. This came in right after that other one, which I thought was too weird not to include. Hey, Bombcast crew, if you were to pick 2 Mario characters to star in a buddy road trip movie, who would they be?
Wario and Luigi.
Oh, that's good. That's really good because it's like
Luigi's just like, I need to get to the place, and then Wario's like, farts.
they could be on Wario's motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I imagine that like they have to come together because there's a mutual like they don't want to, they're reluctant, but Toad set them up to do something. And it's like
Mario and Waluigi were playing tennis and they got beamed up by aliens.
And Toad is the alien. And the front current turns out Toads are the aliens.
Toads kind of look like aliens. They got that big old head.
Yeah, I'd believe it.
Ed Helms as Luigi, Zach Galifianakis as Wario.
Done.
Oh,
Ship
fuck. That's actually really good. I hate how good that is.
Okay. Yeah.
It's basically The Hangover.
Next one comes in from Evie in Naples, Florida. You've been struck by an anime curse. Oh no.
Yeah.
Permanently change your hair to one of the Dragon Ball characters. Who do you choose?
Oh shit. Super Saiyan Goku 4.
The like really long.
No, that's 3, Ben.
What's
Wait,
4?
no, wait, 4 is golden, isn't it? When he gets is it long and gold? Oh shit, I gotta look it up. Wait, 3 is
I'm
golden.
looking it up, too.
4 is when he has the tail and the long hair, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 4 is when he's like a monkey man.
Yeah,
Right.
it's really long but it's black, right?
Yeah.
I'm back, baby. Look at this head of hair. And I could cast 6 shit, but that's not the biggest deal. Now I could do a ponytail. You guys can't stop me.
I had the benefit of looking at this question in advance and kind of thinking about my answer, but I think Android 16 has like the most underrated. That's the red kind of like floppy, but it's still spiky. Oh, mwah. Chef's kiss.
I might say Trunks.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
I feel like I can do
He's
it.
got that 90s throwback, right? The little skater cut.
Yeah.
You go to Google, type Dragon Ball hairstyles, and you come up with a lot of interesting results.
Yeah, I would have to do that because I'm not
Ethan, you
versed.
could go with like a Mr. Satan.
Okay.
Oh, dude, if I
Yeah.
could pull off Mr. Satan's hair.
Who's this guy with the
I could do that.
receding hairline and the big handlebar mustache?
That's probably Satan.
That's
then.
Mr. Satan.
Is that Mr. Satan?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Unless you're looking at like Master Roshi.
Oh,
But,
yeah. Could be Mr.
Does he look like a pervert?
yes,
Well,
Wait,
Does he look like a professional wrestler?
yes.
Okay.
I know who Master Roshi is. It's not him.
Okay. That is Mr. Satan.
Man, I don't know the difference between these guys. I want some blue hair. Give me some blue hair.
Oh, Super
Like
Saiyan
Bulma.
God.
There we go.
Bulma's got pretty good hair.
I think hers probably changes the most. Like
Yeah.
not, I was gonna say season, but it's probably fight. That she, Krillin a hair back at Krillin.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that.
No, Vegeta, man, because he's got that cool widow's peak.
That
I
is
think Vegeta's got the coolest hair.
Yeah.
Definitely probably the most unique hair in all that thing.
Yeah.
Does he ever flatten it out? When he gets married, does he get the hair under control?
No, he grows a mustache instead.
Yeah, he grows the mustache.
That's right, I forgot. Yeah,
Mm.
never under control.
Vegeta looks like a dick.
He is with a heart of
He is-
gold.
but he is the heart of Dragon Ball.
Mm.
What? Who's the heart of Dragon Ball if it's not Vegeta? Gohan?
It can't be. Well, yeah.
I think there's an argument.
Gohan's a fucking nerd.
Oh, excuse me.
He's cool, but he's a nerd.
But like that's why he's the heart of the show.
Vegeta's like one of the only characters with character development in that whole show.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if that. Yeah, I don't know if that says too much, but yeah, that's probably right.
We
The
can't.
Ox-
We can't
Let's see.
argue about Dragon Ball anymore.
I don't know. I like little kid Gohan with the long hair. Like that's a sick name.
Oh yeah.
Headband. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh man, if I could. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Chad is correcting me. There is Piccolo too. Piccolo is
Piccolo's the dad of the show.
Yeah.
Piccolo. Piccolo like had character development and then stops after like
yeah, like around the like Cell saga, he just kind of keeps doing the same thing over and over. I do really like him in the Brawly movie though, because his entire purpose is like Goku TPs to him and he's like, "Give me a Senzu bean," and Piccolo's like, "Do you think I just like have those all the time? Like, what the fuck? Go back to your fight." What do you think, Brad? One more?
Yeah, let's do one more quick email.
All right. This is from Joe. No location listed. When I was younger, around 6, my parents made chili a lot, and I used to think the more time you spend cooking something, the better it tastes. With this thought process, I proceeded to put a frozen corn dog in the microwave for 10 minutes, dreaming of how incredibly delicious the corn dog would be by the end. Of course, after maybe about 6 minutes, the plate on it was cracked in half, and my sister laughed at me for like 30 minutes. Being insanely hot, the corn dog also did not taste any different than the appropriate time. What are some cooking miscues or just life miscues in general that you have made based on assumed information? That is from Joe.
Oh man.
I was told that salt brings out like a food's true flavor, and I remember hearing that as a kid. Like I must have like been watching Emerald or something. So I put a bunch of salt on like a piece of meat, and it was not good.
Oh, okay.
I had
That's the true flavor of meat.
Similar experience with a pot of chili and hearing that cinnamon helps chili one time and not knowing how much cinnamon to use. Not knowing
like a nice dessert chili.
Tiny little bit of cinnamon goes a very long way.
I make pizza rolls. I don't know how to screw those up besides making them just like volcanically hot. That's all I got.
If your top of your mouth doesn't look like a shredded curtain by the time you're every time you did it wrong. This isn't necessarily, it's in the food realm, but one of my first drinking adult liquor things was filling up a full glass full of bourbon, and then the person being like, "What are you doing?"
What size glass are we talking here?
Like a big tumbler, like a glass. And was like, "I'm just getting a drink." Proceeded to take a sip and was like, "Oh no, I've made a mistake.
I've got to pour this back in the bottle."
I like the way you roll.
Gonna nurse this for a week.
Yeah.
I've definitely done that too when I first started getting into like whiskey. When I was in college and I was like, I have to get into whiskey because I'm a journalism major. And I just like pouring a really big glass and taking a big old gulp and just.
That's
coffee.
not what you do with this. Yeah. Hey, that's how you learn, right?
Oh, a coworker of mine whose job it was to cut onions for the day had read, if you chew gum while you're chopping the onions, you don't cry. And he would cry all the time. We had to throw away a whole day's worth of onions because as he was chewing it, he was chewing with his mouth open and the gum fell into the pile of onions.
No.
Yeah.
And wait, and you saw it, or did he tell
I
you?
saw it happen.
Okay.
And then I was like,
that feels like nobody saw this. Like they take the gum out and
did you toss the onions or did you just wash them very thoroughly?
we had to toss them. I didn't feel right. I was like, young Kev, we have to throw these away.
That's fair.
How many onions you think? How many diced up onions was it?
Like 5.
That's it. Wow. Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Did it work? Was he crying?
We then learned that chewing gum while you're working food is against health code violations. So you couldn't keep doing it. I just started chopping the onions.
A lot of things learned this day. Good.
I believe it. All right. That's it for the B-mails. Bombcast@giantbomb.com is the address to send those to, I think. Still, right?
Yes, that should be up and running again.
We're going through.
And now it is. So I got yes. I have a link to click on to get to the inbox now.
Okay.
It is no longer aliased to our fucking real work emails.
Great. That was an interesting 12 hours or so.
Yeah.
Somebody about that? I think I might need to contact someone about that.
I contacted somebody about it and said like, this can't be like this. And so
Yes, that was.
but I've not tried to access the new inbox. So maybe that whole process is broken,
Yes.
but hopefully it just works and it'll be fine. But
a lot of back end transitions going on around here right now.
Mhm.
With, like the emails and the calendars and stuff. It's a good time. All All right, that's going to do it for the show this week. Vinny, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The pleasure is ours, as always.
What a show. Hey, we're gonna play another game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's play some
Wednesday,
games.
right?
Let's play some games.
Play
That's right.
some-
Yes,
tune in
it's Wednesday, the video game day.
We're also gonna play Jeff. We're gonna play a game tomorrow.
That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna check you out as you jack in. Is that what they call it? Yeah.
Oh
Leave
boy.
my webcam on, and we're gonna hit the tubes and jack in. We're gonna play Cyberpunk. Tune in for that. We'll do a little quick and looking. You think I'll finish it tonight?
I don't know. I don't think so. I only get about 4 to 5 hours a night between everyone going to sleep and me having to go to sleep. So I think there's probably a little bit more than 5 hours of game left. And I don't want to rush it. I kind of want to do the side stuff that seems like it could be cool. So I'm not trying to just mainline it or anything. So we will see.
Yeah.
Hey, Janny, want to play some Mahjong on Friday?
Only if it's in the morning.
Okay.
Yes, the only time for Mahjong.
I feel like that's the most deviant time. That's like the most like
You're just like AM drinking.
yeah, exactly. You just like drinking in a mahjong parlor, chain
chain
smoking.
smoking, yep.
Yeah, and yeah.
Playing
Would it help if we play anime mahjong?
Oh yeah, we're gonna start playing Mahjong Soul, the gotcha anime lady Mahjong.
Is that all right?
It's apparently the one to play.
Everybody's talking about it. What else? We're gonna play some Assassin's Creed Syndicate on Wednesday.
Oh,
Forward to- and then Friday we're gonna do some Destiny, right?
Yeah, maybe check out some of the Destiny.
yeah, we might try some fancy video stuff.
Yeah, video game. All the things. And then I'll have this Cyberpunk conversation again on the Beastcat.
How many different times can you have this conversation?
We'll do this again. And then who knows? We'll talk about Cyberpunk on the hotspot.
You know.
Check it out.
Yes.
All right. If it goes that way, it goes that way.
We'll see.
Ben, do you feel like having breakfast this week?
Oh yeah, I got really into Minecraft speedrunners, and I'm gonna start doing that.
Smart. Yeah. Hey, the ray tracing
yes.
Minecraft update just
Yes,
came out.
saw
I'm
that
gonna
for real.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's been in beta forever. So
Yes,
yeah.
just came out today, I believe.
Curious.
Yes, for sure. We should check that out too. We have a little Ray date sometime.
Oh, Ray did.
We'll throw that out there.
Bravo.
That's right. That's right.
Ending on a high note.
All right, on that note, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you again, Vinny, for being here. Always appreciated. Stay tuned for all that stuff throughout the week, and we'll be back next week with another Giant Bombcast. See you then.